welcome to episode 180. Hey, 180 of Zapped to the Past. I am Adrian Mills. I'm joined as always by Mr. Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. Last week, we looked at our first batch of games from issue 73 of Zap 64, which we are in no way affiliated with, and were sent to sleep by Shadow Dancer, rugged by Rugby Coach, and muddled our way through Mighty Bomb Jack. This week we conclude our look at the games in May 1991, along with what was lighting up our TV and cinema screens this month. Graham, is it a good goodbye to May 1991, or shall we be glad to see the back of it?
Well, merry old May 1991 is turning out to be a right miserable old affair. The kind of pick and mix you don't want at the cinema, that's for sure. So in a month that also saw Queen Elizabeth II become the first British monarch to address the US Congress, we grab our cutlasses, take a swig of rum, and prepare to get on board with the somewhat swashbuckling adventures of One Eye the Pirate in the C64 arcade conversion of Skull and Crossbones, and then head to the corridors of a fancy eco tower block to look for annoying creatures and such in the underwhelming Gremlins 2. From Pirates to Gremlins sounds like a title of a C64 developer autobiography to me. So while we continue our quest to find something worth playing in May, we get back into our fastest vector spaceship yet and go for a zoom around the cities, worlds and robo-people on an adventure and trading quest in the impressive Moonfall, before finally treading on some oddly familiar territory as we explore the mazes and treasure chests of Druid, but in a different order, in the rip-off reskin Warlock the Avenger. So a game that should have been given a lot more credit, and a game where someone has just hacked out the graphics. May 1991 has a lot to answer for, if you ask me.
Well, I don't think it's going to go down in the history books as one of the great C64 months.
I fear you may be right. I fear that is...
I mean, there's some... It's interesting because there's things that happen in it which are odd. And we'll come to some of them, but there's just odd things in it. But it is, other than its oddity, it's mad. It's not a mad May, is it? It's just kind of a, I don't know, miserable May, really.
It is. It's been maudlin, miserable. Yeah,
maudlin's a good word. Yeah, maudlin May is a bit.
Yeah, that's what I think as well. Having played all the games and everything, it's been a bit like a, let's hope June is somewhat better.
We can hope.
We can but hope. So I'll get this out of the way at the start up here, obviously, as we do this in the second episode. If you want to support the podcast, you can always do that. We have a Patreon, and you can support us financially by going there. It's patreon.com/zapped to the past. It's cheap. It's not that expensive. It is what it is. But, come along, get access to the Discord. Come along and join and have some chats. And there's been some good chats going on this week, actually, about the games and things like that, and some of the things that have been going on.
There has
indeed. You also get the episodes early and advert free, and the opportunity to engage when we do our sort of reach out episodes, I suppose, Ask the Podcasts, Golden Bread Bins, those kind of things as well. So if you want to come along and join in that, then patreon.com/Zap to the Past is your destination. Alternatively, you could buy us a small Ko-fi at ko-fi/Zap to the Past, or buy some shop stuff, buy some merch at zaptothepast.shop.
Go for it.
And we're on all the social medias under Zap to the Past. So, come along and say hello. People seem to like Shadow Dancer. I found that very strange.
Yeah, it's one of those kind of games that people like. There's nothing more I can say about it. I don't know why. I thought it was crap, but, well, actually, it wasn't crap. It wasn't very good. It wasn't very good. It was just, he was slow, that dog, honestly. Ninjas don't take dogs for a walk. And if they did, he's obviously aging. The dog was slow.
It's his guide dog, probably, or whatever.
Yeah. That would have made more sense, actually, if the dog was in front then.
Yeah, it would have been. It would. So today, this episode, we've got 4 more games, like I said, just to round out May. Shall we get into them? There's not much to say about May. It's just been a bit of a month.
Yeah, May.
So, May, indeed. So let's just get into the very first game. And Graham, that's over to you to... Yo ho ho, roist the mainsail. Roist isn't a word. Hoist the mainsail.
I ain't roisting no one.
Hoist the mainsail, get a tattoo across your chest, all those kind of things. Yo ho ho. Tell us all about Skull and Crossbones.
You know nothing about pirates. That's what that tells me.
Arr!
Arr. From now on, I'll be requiring airnets. Yes. Okay. So Skull and Crossbones then, brought to you by Domark. So the C64 one anyway, £9.99, full price indeed, 81% in Zap. Okay. It's copyright Atari games or Tengen, whoever did what by then, who knows, but of course it was an arcade game. However, the C64 version was developed by Walking Circles, aka or coded by Carlton Handley, somebody that's a friend of the podcast and who we've spoken to, I believe.
We have, yes, indeed.
And the musician was Matt Furness. He also did the Amiga music as well. So at least that's what he's credited.
That's good.
So what is it all about then? Well, Skull and Crossbones, as I said, was developed by Atari Games in the arcades in 1989. It's a pirate-themed beat-em-up. At least that's what it's branded as by them, which is okay. I get the idea of that. This has been released on multiple formats of things. So it came out in 1989 in the arcade, of course. But there was also a DOS, Amiga, Atari ST, Commodore 64, ZX Spectrum, and Amstrad CPC release for all these things.
Of course there was.
Released on everything, more or less. So what's Skull and Crossbones all about? Well, let's turn our attention to the blurb, because the blurb is short and tells us everything we need to know. Let's get our piratey selves in action. I was going to do it in a pirate voice. I am not going to do that. I've just decided.
Why not? Do it.
I'm not going to do that because after a while you sort of slip in and out of pirate language and it's not good. It's not good at all. It ain't good. And also, of course, that would be the idea of that pirate. That's the guy from the Disney movie invented that type of voice, didn't he? What's his name? Robert, whatever his name was. So
who?
In Disney's Treasure Island, the guy that played Long John Silver in that.
He just made up pirate speak.
Yeah, he did that ha-ha voice. Yeah, that's not how pirates spoke at all. He just made that up because he thought it sounded cool. And then from that moment forth, everyone just assumes that pirates will go, ha-ha, Jim lad. But they don't. That's from Treasure Island. And the guy that did that, I forget his name now, it'll come back to me. I'm sure it's Robert something. But he invented that. So Disney invented that pirates. And of course, then they went on to do Pirates of the Caribbean and even more ha-ha, didn't they? And yo-ho-ho and all of that stuff. Anyway, get me lost in pirate language and pirate world. So the game then, more to the point, join One Eye and Red Dog on a voyage of discovery through 8 increasingly difficult levels in an attempt to retrieve your ill-gotten gains from the evil sorcerer. So there you go, that's the game. Your task along the way, well, actually, I'll put getting started. Playing either of the 2 pirates, you must battle your way through the many weird and wonderful domains of the evil sorcerer, including a castle, pirate ships, an enchanted cave, and a mythical island. 8 levels of increasing difficulty, each packed with its own unique defenses and dangerous obstacles. I feel like that should have had more sentence at the end of that, but that's where it ends. Along the way, you will find chests full of treasure, golden goblets, sacks of coins, and other priceless items which will help you in your quest and which you can collect by walking over them. You will also come across skulls and crossbones under which are hidden treasures. To dig these up, you have to move onto them and press the fire button. The more valuables you can collect, the stronger you will become, and the more easily you will be able to vanquish your opponents. Should you fail to pick up the treasure, your power will soon diminish, and your enemies will become harder and harder to defeat. Okay.
Ooh.
Okay. Sort of makes sense for what this game is, really. It says in the instructions, though, your reward. As you progress through the game, you will discover bunches of grapes. Bunches of grapes? Bottles of rum. Bunches of grapes. It's just bunches of grapes.
I don't. Is that a pirate thing? Bunches of grapes?
Pieces of 8, maybe, but I don't remember.
Pieces of 8, yeah.
I don't remember the pirates and the parrots of the pirates ever saying bunches of grapes, but maybe they did and I missed it. Anyway,
absolutely.
Bunches of grapes is what you can pick up. Bottles of rum and other goodies essential to your survival and health. You must keep up your energy to survive. It says, watch your back. At the end of each level, you must defeat one of the evil sorcerer's most faithful henchmen who guards the prized treasure of that domain. But be careful. No sooner have you captured the treasure than your shipmate will turn on you and you must fight to the death to seize the spoils for yourself.
Ooh.
And then it says in the instructions, the final conflict. If you are one of the few brave souls who can battle to the final scene, you will at last come face to face with your archenemy, the evil sorcerer himself. Defeat him in a grisly head-to-head combat, and his wealth and power will become yours. Not so much his health.
His health. I've got this cough now. I didn't want that.
I know. Crazy, isn't it? Crazy. I didn't think of that. Anyway, so exciting that. 2-player game, but not in the way you might think, because on the Amiga and Atari ST, you can have 2 players on the screen at the same time. Yay!
Ooh,
not the Commodore 64, though. Yeah, not on the C64, the IBM PC, the Spectrum and Amstrad, no. It says on that, on the 8-bit machines, once 2-player mode has been selected, player 1 will proceed to play until player 1 completes the level. After this, player 2 will start straight away and will keep playing until he completes the level or loses all his lives. It's assuming that it's a male player. Can't gender do all those things, can we, these days? It could be anyone playing the game. You can't say that.
Could be.
I'll go through the controls and all the rest of it in a minute. So, all right, that's the blurb. There it is. Boom. And what we are presented with is actually a fairly interesting, I guess, loading screen for one. It's a multi-load game, but there's a nice loading screen on it, and then obviously into the game itself. The presentation of the game isn't so bad. It's a little bit arcade-like in that you've got the logo on the screen, and then you've also got the text and stuff like that, and you're going to want to be getting into the game. Right, fair enough. You can, at this point, choose 1 or 2 player, and I think you can choose sound effects or music. In fact, I'm pretty sure you can. I chose music, that you can't have both at the same time, which, as we said on many, many, many occasions with these kind of beat-em-ups, bit of a Scotch egg in it, that bit of a Scotch egg in amongst all the other salad stuff. You don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, a Scotch egg, do you?
Until it's been cracked open.
Until you eat it. And to be fair, it was a bit like that with this. I found the music on this a bit at odds with the game type. Now, it ain't bad music. It's just not great for a pirate thing. I expected it to be a little bit more piratey. And on the arcade, it is quite piratey because you've got a kind of version of Yo Ho Ho and a bottle of rum in the background. 15 men on a dead man's chest and all that kind of thing. Whereas this, felt like it was from a different kind of game genre. Anyway, it is what it is. But it's still pretty good. It's just not very piratey. Now, we've had this dispute before. So when you start the game, then the game will present you with a fairly rudimentary UI at the bottom, which takes up the bottom section, small amount really. On the left-hand side, you've got One Eye's health and wealth. And on the right-hand side, you've got Red Dog's health and wealth. And assuming that you're playing to 2 players, then I imagine those will increase depending on how far you get in the game, of course. However, when you're playing with One Eye, only the one on the left activates, even though they are both present on the screen. So the game then. So the game is it's basically Golden Axe with pirates. No, not as good as Golden Axe, but it's Golden Pirates, this. The idea is that you make your way from the sort of, in the same way that Golden Axe did, you make your way from left to right, but also you can go, in this you can sort of go down and across and up ladders and things like that. But principally you're making your way across the environment. The environment scrolls as you move forward. So you move forward a bit, some enemies come on, you'll fight them, you'll move a bit forward. Not like in Golden Axe where it says go and then you move forward like that. But in this, you've just got to defeat the enemies and then you'll progress. You'll eventually walk across this kind of these things on the ground. When you touch them, he just kind of jumps to the next bit. So you don't have to actually jump or anything like that. It does that for you. The idea in this, of course, is that you've got to spend your time fighting off the various pirates with your sword and cutlass, and hence the reason you'll need to use your fighting moves. Now, the fighting moves, without the fire press, you're simply moving him around. And then because he faces left or right when you're obviously doing that, to turn him around, which is something that took me ages to figure out. I don't know why, but it did. It just didn't, and I'll come back to why the controls are a bit problematic, but you have to, your idea is you hold the fire button and it turns him around to face the opposite way. And then with fire button pressed, if you press up, it defends upwards. If you press down, like a down defense. If you press left, it's attack left. If you press right, defend. If you press up left, attack up. So you've got, different moves. And there are some special moves as well, which are available by holding the direction, then pressing fire. That's left lunge and right backslash. So there's a couple of nice little fighting moves in there. They're out of the arcade, essentially.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and they work in a similar way to the way that the Golden Axe moves work, in that there are a sequence of moves that you do, and that's all there is. There's no finesse to it. You just have to be aligned next to the player you're about to hack to pieces, and then have at thee, and cutlass fights and everything else, and haha, and all the rest of it. You are suitably pirate-looking, I guess, as a sprite. They're a bit blocky on the C64, but passable enough, okay? I thought they are, in the arcade, very cartoon-like. And that's kind of, it's really one of its key strengths in the arcade, because it's not actually that, I've seen it, I think, twice in my whole life, this arcade, and it's very unmemorable, apart from the pirate animations, which do look a bit like Asterix, Asterix-style sort of cartoon. But on the C64, they're kind of obviously a bit more C64, so they're a bit blocky of body and leg, and the animations are a bit wavy of arm, and it's a C64 version, but they're passable enough. And the idea then is you move along, killing the enemies, collecting the treasure, picking up the various bits of food to boost your health. If you boost your health, then it makes you a bit stronger.
And then obviously the idea is to get as much health and wealth as you possibly can in order to go all the way to the end of the 8 levels. Seems pretty reasonable to be able to do that. There's quite a lot packed in here, actually. Most of the screen is kind of the full screen pirate environment, should we say, or at least initially you're on a boat, you go across, then you're on the kind of land, and there's actually quite a lot of background in this. And the backgrounds are all kind of medium res, so they've got that medium resy kind of look on the C64. There's a lot of slabs of color in there, but I guess what the best thing you could say about it is they are pirate-ish. They are of pirates, and the pirates themselves. There's actually, for once, there's quite a few of them on the screen at certain times. I was up to 3 or 4 enemies and fighting them off, and it does get pretty challenging to fight all those off. But I'll come back to why that is also a bit of a problem. But that's principally how this game plays. You move over to the right, you get attacked by various enemies. They do change as well. So you get different pirate graphics. Each level loads in. So you'll get all the way to the end. As it said, you'll beat the whatever it is at the end. And then I found that it was sort of, when I got to the end of it, there was kind of a pregnant pause where it just kind of, I wasn't sure what it was going to do. And then it just went, well, hey, and the sort of the Skull and Crossbones logo appeared. It's like, loading in the next level, you beat that one. It's like, okay. It just seemed like, I don't know, it just seemed like I'd done everything. Maybe I felt like, when you feel like in a game where you've done something too quick, but like when you're playing some of them GTA games, or when you're playing Red Dead Redemption, the first one, and you get somewhere too early, and you're like, and it's like the game characters aren't ready for you and everything. Like, you're too early. You shouldn't be here.
Strike the set. You get
it's a bit like that. It is a bit weird. Anyway, so, but other than the little weird pregnant pause at the end of the level, it loads the next one in, and then it's on with it. And then again, and each level is varied in its backgrounds. They're not all big pirate ships and stuff like that. There are variety. However, that's principally this game, a pirate-based beat-em up with a C64 version of an arcade. I would go as far as to say this is colourful. I'll give it that. And it's not without basic pirate style charm. It's more of a ha-ha than a ha-ha. Yeah. The game attempts to create a version of the arcade. The problem is, though, that the arcade was always kind of a bit of a dull, forgettable thing. Kind of Golden Axe, like I said, but without the pizzazz and in kind of piratey pants. No, it's a 2-player beat-em-up that just never quite hit the mark, with the exception of the kind of arcade graphics, which were always quite good. They kind of also can almost conveyed that way in the Amiga, but still, it's that Asterix styling that sort of, and I mean the animation of Asterix.
Yeah.
And there's sort of hints of other game types in here as well. The sword fighting, as it isn't actually too far off the Defender of the Crown fighting bit. Do you remember in that where you get that music where I'm haunted still by the Warlock, great service we give? I can't ever unhear that now. But it's reminded me of that kind of fighting style, sort of. It is that kind of, haven't they? Warlock, great service we give. It's going to haunt me forever. It is. And I know right now that Paddy's just heard that and he's chuckling to himself because I've cursed him with it as well years ago. And he can't unhear it now. Anyway, I digress. But also, there's a little bit of Monkey Island fighting in this as well, I think. I know that's later on the Amiga and stuff, but there is that kind of side. There is that, the look of it is, because it's pirates, I suppose, but the pirates sword fighting, waving swords around, ain't necessarily a bad thing. Like I said, it's character style and it's more of the arcade, but in the C64, they're just blockier versions of that, but they're not bad. They look piratey and there's a few of them. And I suppose what you can say with this is that the C64 makes an attempt to be as much of the arcade as you can be in 8 bits and 64K. And that's with multi-load. It's minus the interstitials from the arcade. In the arcade, you get little 6 sections of pirate boats and you do get a bit more of that. It's a little bit more piratey. And in this, you get at the C64 when you do get some text. I was disappointed that it wasn't written in pirate speak, but what can you do about that?
R.
Exactly. And there's obviously, like I said, there's more than a couple of pirates on the screen. Those things are quite good about it. I mean, there's even like the coin collection. All the things from the arcade are actually here. So in what I can say about the conversion of the arcade is, in of itself, it's good. And the way it plays is as you might expect it to be. But the problem with it is its pace. On the C64, it's just too cumbersome to control. It's a bit sluggish and a bit slow. That makes the fighting feel sluggish and unresponsive. And in a sword fight, you can't really have that. It doesn't really work. And then the music, which is not the same as the arcade, and it's kind of jovial and it's okay, but it would be more at home in a Garfield game, I felt. It just didn't feel right here. And that does have an impact on how you feel in a pirate game. I know it sounds stupid to say it, but you do need piratey stuff. It does get better, though, the music in later levels, actually. It does get a little bit better and a little bit more piratey. I'll give it that. So I wouldn't say it was bad, but I just think it, in a game that's principally about pirates, sword fighting, and those kind of things, sword fights need to be pretty fast or faster, and the music needs to suit the kind of mood, or at least, and have sound effects at the same time if possible, really. I thought the graphics were cartoon-like and a bit loud and a bit bold on the C64, which gave it a kind of weird junior look. So it looked, I know there are limitations on the C64, but it kind of gave it a bit of remember that Flintstones game that we saw many moons ago? Not the really bad one, the one that we saw a million years ago, but the one where you were painting the walls. And we were critical of that because it had good characters in it. It looked like Fred Flintstone, but there was big slabs of medium res C64 colour in it. And I think I've just got too used to dithering. All these European games that came out recently, they've all had like championship ditherers in there, like major league dithering going on. This one's, it's like back to basics, big slabs of colour. Never mind the dither. You don't need any dithering. No shading needed.
This one does suffer from the fact that it's all yellow.
It's just a bit yellow. For that pirate ship, the deck is just bright yellow. Now, I don't know much about pirates, but I'm pretty sure they didn't paint the decks of their pirate ship bright yellow. And I would have thought, darker colours, browns, really, for wood.
It is weird that when a C64 game does actually require brown, they don't have it. We could have games set in Yorkshire puddings and stuff, which we don't like, but, a pirate ship would be brown, wouldn't it? It would be brown. It's brown on the loading screen.
And it would have, barrels. I noticed there was distinct lack of barrels. In a game where you really need barrels. Of all the games, as I was playing, I'm thinking, where are the barrels? Where are the damn barrels? This is the one time I needed them. Anyway, and there are obviously objects dotted about, but it is big, bold, 4-colour backgrounds, large chunks of yellow and brown. It gets better. in the villages and in some of the other details in the cave levels, they're okay. You sort of get away with it, but it's still it's a limitation, isn't it? And something, though, I have to say that I can understand the excuse on the C64. You've got a limited palette and limited memory. All right, fair enough. But it's the same on the Amiga. The Amiga one isn't great graphically. Some of the characters, obviously, on the animations, all right, maybe they're a little bit better. But that's still got big slabs of yellow and bold colours on it as well. So I don't know. It just felt a little bit childlike. So, and even the arcade isn't going to win any background awards. They're actually pretty boring on there. I don't know. This is a C64 approximation, isn't it? I think it just left me feeling like a bit like it was a kind of a childlike, I don't know, a bit childlike in its look, and it gave me eye strain from all the yellow, which wasn't my greatest thing to have. The animations were basic for One-Eyed Red Dog, and I had quite a lot of difficulty controlling his turnaround, and that was a challenge. I found the controls were a little bit unresponsive, but that could be I was on an emulator. There's a million reasons why that might be, but it did feel quite hard to hold the button down to get him to turn around. He didn't seem to want to do it when I wanted to. So I ended up fighting a lot of these people backwards and then lining up. Sometimes I'm swinging my sword around, and because you're not lined up almost perfectly, it didn't look like I was hitting anything. There's no impact. At least when you hit them in Golden Axe, they kind of flinch and they freeze for a moment, don't they? And this, they just kind of stand there like, hey, I'm taking it.
Yeah,
and eventually they explode. No, and then eventually they explode, and you're like, okay, I get that. I was hitting him, but I could have done with knowing that.
Yep.
So the battles feel just like a little bit of wavy arm. You're waving your sword around. Eventually they just disappear in a puff of smoke. All right, I don't know. I just found, like I said, I was constantly walking into battles backwards, which was really disconcerting. I imagine it was a battle technique they weren't familiar with in the days of piratey times, but there you go. And also that left, all of that left the fighting underwhelming. And these kind of games, you need a good wallop. And you get that in the arcade, as much as I don't particularly like it, but you do get a good wallop factor. In this, there isn't any. So it just feels like a slow plod, and that kills the experience of the whole thing pretty quickly, doesn't it? So I don't know. There's quite a lot of games, I suspect, really, that Golden Axe may be inspired. And there is a lot of game in this, and the levels are like the arcade, and there's plenty of enemies. You get skeletons later on, which are very like the ones in Golden Axe. But those big slabs of garish colour, the game just ended up feeling like a bit of a dull slog, and not necessarily as piratey as I thought. Now, interestingly, and only as a little side note, as I was looking around for Skull and Crossbones, I came across a game that came out fairly recently under some duress, it seemed, called Skull and Bones. Now, it's not a game I've ever played or ever heard of.
The Ubisoft one.
Yeah, but apparently it took years to come out. Nobody wanted to release it, and everyone hated it. And when I looked at it, I could see why, because that was missing everything that this game had. I thought that was hilarious. It was just looked like somebody sailing around trading. It
It looked like the most boring idea of a pirate game ever, but I don't know much about it. But
Skull and Bones, or Skull and Crossbones, where it could be Skull and Bones, is the essentially when they did Assassin's Creed, Black Flag and Rogue.
Yeah, that looked like it should have been.
But they just took they inspired by that, but unfortunately they came out when they were crossover for the PS3 to PS4 era, so 12 years ago. But it took 10 years for them to get it finished, and then the sailing in it is not as good as it is in those games. So, what do you think?
Anyway, it's like I said, the C64 version. No disrespect to Carlton, it's a good conversion of a very, very, very average game that adds some nice characters. If you're not going to have that, and it's not really that piratey, well, then you're going to end up with something that's pretty bland. And add to that the kind of C64's limitations. Some of the character graphics in it have big blocks around them. Some of the things don't. It's not neat around the edges, and that's just the limitations of the hardware. I think it's probably pushing quite a lot of graphics around behind the scenes, but for what purpose, really? It's not very much fun to play. And ultimately, if you're playing somebody called One Eye in this context, it should be a lot more fun, shouldn't it? Mm-hmm. But you end up feeling like you've been poked in one eye, really, with all that yellow. So no, I was a bit disappointed. I quite like piratey themed things, and this was not particularly piratey enough for me. But what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I actually in American podcast journalese, I reached out to Carlton for some comments, see if he remembers what he said, and he basically said the same thing. He said it's an odd one. Everything's pretty good other than the actual gameplay, because that's the problem with the original, with the original thing. So I asked him about the graphics, who did them, and they're done in house. But he did say that there's full color screen with high res graphics, which scrolls in 360 degrees. So, I suppose that's something.
Yeah, it scrolls around, impressive. But I wouldn't say it was high res, but okay.
I mean, it's obviously high. I think it's a high res screen with medium res stuff on whatever it is. Anyway, the problem with this game, it's a Prince valiant effort at porting the cartoon like an arcade original. It may look to follow the structure of the original, but as you say, it just loses everything that might have made the original interesting. So the cartoon-like visuals, the interstitial elements, the pace, and it's rather dull. And yeah, I didn't particularly think it was particularly that good looking, a bit ugly, like you said. It's big blocks of colour, colour. We have been spoilt by our dithering, as you're rightly saying, shading and things of late. And if you're going to just slap a big chunk of yellow on it and tile some, it's not whatever. I also found the controls really twitchy and tricky. I didn't like holding down fire for a second to switch directions. I thought that was a bit of a misstep, if you'll pardon the pun. It slowed things down massively, and I thought the backstab seemed to be twitchy and unreliable at best. I couldn't always get it to work, so I was either having to wait a second to turn and face someone, or trying to do the backstab, and it actually looked like I was trying to do some weird dance moves at them, badly out of time instead of fighting them. I think I'd have just preferred it if it just flicked me left and right. I moved left, moved right, face me that direction. And then if I hold down fire and press the other one, do the backstab. I don't know. There may be reasons, but whatever. And as you said as well, the music just didn't seem to match the cartoon adventure stylings of the arcade either. It's a bit dark and a bit morose, it is. Bit out of place. So I think on the whole, and I think, 1991, but this is, it's got all that tension of, all that Atari glitz and glamour, sound effects and sort of animations. And the animations in the arcade are really good, and they are the thing that make it stand out. The animations on the pirates and the actual look of the sprites and everything are excellent. Backgrounds are a bit dull, but everything else, there's a lot to that. You're not going to get them on here. And so, like we said with a lot of arcade games, once you rip out those flashy elements, you're left with a rather dull fighting game. Not so much Golden Axe as probably something like Bronze Cutlass.
Okay.
Which is bound to the original game. Golden Axe sounds cool, but this and was good fun to fight. This just isn't. And I did have a crack on the arcade game as well on MAME, and it was
boring.
But it's not great. There's a lot of stuff going on, and you're like, but the actual game, minute to minute, moment to moment gameplay is just dull.
Yep.
Skull and Crossbones, it left me slightly cross, but not too cross. Not too cross. Let's move on then, because we've still got one game to talk about in this half. And that game is Gremlins 2, the new batch. 38%, Graham. 38%, which is the oh no, that got 81%. Close to the opposite. It's from Elite, this, and this is the home version of the excellent film Gremlins 2, the new batch. That's the excellent film, not this. So weirdly, I had to sort of hunt around for Gremlins games. This is the third Gremlins game on the C64.
Wow.
But it's actually the first time we have crossed paths with them. We haven't actually had a Gremlins game to look at first. The first game was based on the first film. Came out in 1984, so before our time. I did go and have a look at it, though. It was made by Atari Soft. Came out on the Apple II, Atari 5200, the C64, and something called a PC booter. Do you know what a PC booter was?
No.
It meant you just stuck the disc in and it played automatically. Amazing.
Clever.
I know. You didn't have to boot up your PC or anything. You stuck that disc in and it worked. That's a PC booter for you. The game itself, that game, though, was a simple single-screen affair. It was a bit like a Berserk, in a way. You had to kill the gremlins wandering about with your sword, whilst you had to collect the mogwais and sort of deposit them safely in a pen in the corner of the screen. It was all right. But it was kind of Atari Soft games from the early 1980s. Not too bad, actually. So for 1984, it was all right. Then there was the Gremlins, the Adventure. That was released in 1985. It was a graphics and text adventure made by Adventure International. That was actually reviewed in issue 2 of Zapped. It scored 80%. I do have a memory of playing that back then, when I just used to dabble in adventure games. But anyway, 6 years later, we have Gremlins 2, made by Elite. I couldn't find any credits on this. It's never a good sign. Never a good sign. But the loading screen is by Jam, who we saw last week. He did the Mighty Bomb Jack loading screen. And the music is by Mark Cooksey. The loading screen to this is good. I know he's back in Gremlin form. It's good, the loading screen from Jam. The Mogwai peeking out of the drawer.
It is good.
Drawing. Yeah. It's probably the most redeeming, the biggest redeeming feature of this game is the graphics, because they're actually pretty decent throughout. There's some nice graphics in this, but we'll come to that in a bit. So, of course, there's a story. I'm going to read that for you here. It's been a number of years since the Gremlins' night of carnage in the peaceful town of Kingston Falls, and Gizmo, the sweet Mogwai, is back under the protection of Mr. Wing. I don't know if that's his name, but anyway, the old storekeeper in New York's Chinatown. Mr. Wing has been rejecting offers from super tycoon Daniel Clamp to buy his store to clear the way for a huge real estate development. But the old man passes away, and after a few months, Clamp Plaza is now a reality. Working in the complex, which contains shops, restaurant, stock brokerage, and cable TV network, are Billy Peltzer, Gizmo's previous owner, and his girl, Kate. Now, Billy is a commercial artist in the Clamp advertising department, and Kate is a tour guide for the complex. Unbeknownst to Billy and Kate, Gizmo is now a prisoner in Clamp's genetics laboratory, awaiting experimentation. But when Billy hears a messenger absent-mindedly humming Gizmo's familiar song, he realizes his Mogwai friend is nearby. Billy manages to find Gizmo and free him. Billy leaves Gizmo in what he thinks is the safety of his desk drawer, with instructions for Kate to pick up the Mogwai after work. However, Gizmo decides to explore Billy's office and accidentally becomes wet as a maintenance man tries to fix a faulty drinking fountain. The 4 new Mogwais, Mohawk, Lenny, George, and Daffy, immediately dump Gizmo into a vent and head off into the vast Clamp Plaza to make mischief. After a midnight feast, the mischievous Mogwais reappear with the following morning as gremlins with their own unique brand of humour and love of destruction. All hell breaks loose in Clamp Plaza as a fire sprinkler system produces gremlins galore who then cause chaos trading stock, running the cable TV studio, and drinking experimental liquids in the genetics labs, which produces weird and dangerous mutations. Mayhem ensues. Meanwhile, Gizmo, who has had enough of being pushed around, is preparing to fight back, and Billy is making plans to dispose of the marauding gremlins before nightfall, when they will be able to run riot around New York. Can you, as Billy, survive the journey through Clamp Plaza, combating the hordes of gremlins on the loose, with occasional help from Gizmo, and collect all of the parts necessary for your plan to destroy the gremlins for good? So that's the plot of the film. I'm not sure it's the plot of the game, because that is all sort of background to this, but none of the game actually seems to reference any of that really in any sort of real way. So when the game loads, we get a title screen with some options: play 1 or 2 players. We can turn the music off or on, and turn the sound effects off or on, or just start the game. You can have both, obviously, in this one. So we do have music and sound effects. The screen flicks to a high score table. The music here is a version of the Gremlins theme, and I thought the music here in the title screen, not in game, was actually a pretty decent piece by Mr. Cooksey. It's all right. A couple of minutes long, and it's a decent version of the Gremlins theme. It's all right. It's all right. Yeah, it's nice. Anyway, little else to do. Press fire, start the game. It's a multi-load. I did play both the disc and a cartridge version. The disc version has every level load individually. There's 5 different levels. But, if you want to actually play this now, get the cartridge version. It's all instant. You don't have to wait around. So anyway, once the first level's loaded, you find yourself in the first of those 5 levels. This is System Control. You play as Billy. You emerge from a lift into a static screen of a corridor, side-on corridor, so 2D, leading into the main chunk of the level. Controls are simple enough, with left and right to move Billy, up to jump, down to crouch, fire to shoot whatever weapon you have at that time. Moving to the right, off the screen reveals the game to be a flick screen platform shooter, I guess. So there's no scrolling screen here, just flick screens. As you move into the second screen, you see that the graphics of the screen now take up most of the screen. It's got the UI at the bottom. This shows your present weapon, the number of lives remaining, number of credits remaining, and finally the game time and your score. The screens are made up of the floor, so it's platforms, so which you can run on at this point. They've all got floors, so there's no gaps or holes in them for the most part. And then there may be some levels above you that you can try to reach using the furniture that's on the screen to make your way up. Hard to know what you can jump on and what you can't, because it's all sort of drawn to the same kind of style. So it's not always clear what kind of stuff you can jump on and what you can't. As you stand there, various gremlins will come onto the screen from either side. You must shoot them with your weapon. Some take multiple shots to be destroyed. Should they touch you, then you lose a life. Lose all 7, because you've got 7 lives to start with, and you'll need to use a continue, of which you have 3. So that means you've got 21 lives. Again, we always know when you give you so many lives that what the difficulty level is like in these games. It's
don't we just?
So there are various gremlins in the game, and they are as follows. There is Daffy. He's dizzy and demented with a chaotic sense of fun. He curls up into a ball and will try to bowl you over. There's Mohawk, a new strain of badness. He's about as cuddly as a cockroach. He wrecks, he hurls, and will pop up anywhere. There's Electric, a real live wire, a zillion watts of gremlin power whose only wish is to light up your life. He'll burst out of the main sockets to try to zap you. You're in for a shock as he's lightning fast. There's George. He's crabby and grim, but enjoys a good cigar. Smoking can be dangerous, especially when George gets careless with his ash. Lenny, he's George's dumb but loyal companion. This gremlin has the IQ of a gatepost. He'll throw anything at you that comes to hand. The sexy girl, the gremlin with a fatal attraction, she blows deadly kisses, which are definitely passion killers, not a girl to take to visit your parents. I always thought Sexy Girl was odd in the film because I never actually realised that gremlins were sexed.
No, I didn't realise that.
Until she turned up in. But they don't reproduce by sex. They reproduce by getting wet. And
that's one way they reproduce. They might reproduce in all sorts of ways.
True. That's true, I suppose. There's Pogo. This gremlin is full of bounce. He jumps around unpredictably. And finally, there is Skateboard. Keep out of his way. He'll run you over. This gremlin is rad and mad. Also scattered about the screen randomly are various pickups you can collect. These are like little discs with letters on them. These are as follows. You can get an L for an extra life, P for bonus points, T to increase or decrease the level timer, M is a mystery, can be any of the above, and R, Gizmo flies on from the top and kills gremlins in his path. You can pick up different weapons as well. There are tomatoes, genetically modified tomato, telephones, throw telephones, frisbee, flies in a straight line, a boomerang, flies forward and then comes back, the standard torch, which is what you start with, single beam torch, two-way torch, which is a double shot, double beam torch, forward and back, and mega torch, superpowered torch that fires 3 beams, and two-way mega torch. I think they were running out of ideas at this point. 3 beams in front and behind. So should you make it to the end of a level, you can enter a shop. Here you can buy any of the weapons if you have enough credits. And this replaces the torch as Billy's default weapon. You collect credits in this game by killing the gremlins, and then some of them will turn into bubbles. And then you basically run into the bubbles or jump into the bubbles, and that gives you credits. And that's how you do that. Also, at the end of the level, you've got to collect a bonus item to proceed. The instructions for this, what these bonus items are vague. End of level bonus, it says. Billy must collect a bonus item at the end of each level so that he can defeat all of the gremlins at the end of the game and stop them leaving Clamp Plaza and taking over New York. Billy cannot leave a level until he has collected the bonus item for that level. Notice that at no point in the instructions, whether it's a story bit or whatever, does it tell you what the items are. So
True.
You don't know what you're doing. Nor does it tell you that to proceed into the next level, you've got to enter an elevator to proceed. So you've got to collect it, then there's an elevator that opens, you get in there. It's a bit vague. I don't know. The instructions to this are kind of seem to be written elsewhere. So if you get through the first level, the next 4 levels you move through, there is the Cable Studio, the Splice-O Life. So these do actually represent bits of the film. So the Cable Studio is the TV studio in the film. The Splice-O Life is the genetics, the experimentation offices, the experimentation labs. The Clamp offices is the office block. And finally, the lobby, which is the main sort of lobby area of the building. If you manage to collect all 5 objects and make it to the end of the lobby, you will stop the gremlins from invading New York. Each level is pretty much the same in that it is a flick screen platformer. As you progress, though, they do open up. The later levels require you to move up and down screens as well as left to right. So the maps become a bit more open, a bit bigger. But the core gameplay of running, jumping, and shooting the never-ending barrage of gremlins never changes. That's all you do. You're just running around, jumping, bouncing about, trying to shoot stuff, trying to find the power-ups and trying to find the mystery object for that level. So visually, this is good, as I said at the beginning. It's got some nicely animated medium-res sprites. Billy himself is a decent size, runs well, maybe a little bit slow, but he's all right. The various gremlins that come on are recognizable from the film, especially the female one and the lightning one. And most of them, they look actually pretty decent. They're good C64 little gremlin sprites. The little interstitial pop-ups to tell you when you actually collect something are also good, and the various backgrounds are pretty well drawn, and they're quite varied as you progress from level to level. There's some nice touches as well in the second level, which is the Cable Studio. As you progress in, there's one bit where you kind of go past this graveyard in the background, which is nicely drawn. There's some good background art in this, which I was appreciative of. The music, though, it starts to grate after a while. It's another version of the Gremlins theme tune that loops over and over, changes key at one point, but it just goes on. It just seems to go on and on and on. And it ties in with, and it's kind of very representative of the rote gameplay that this game has to offer, because that's where it all falls down. Everything, you just do the same thing over and over and over again. And there's no pauses, there's no peaks, there's no troughs. It's just this single level of gameplay all the way through that you're just doing. Jumping on platforms, shooting stuff. Gremlins are coming on all the time. There's no pauses, there's no hold up. The music is just this loop of, annoying da 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 da, and that's it. You just on and on and on and on and get it. It gets really annoying. The game itself is unfairly hard as well. The loops of gremlins coming onto the screen are designed to be as annoying as possible, and the game is also cheap in some of its level design. Getting to the top platforms in a room is quite the challenge. So why they then feel the need to have disappearing platforms up there with no warning is beyond me, which drops you back down to the floor, usually into the path of a gremlin and usually to the loss of a life. Feels very unfair. There are also lockers, or what look like lockers, which turn into ice machines as you run past them for no real reason and kill you. Maybe they're from the film, I can't remember, but they seem arbitrarily cruel here. Gremlins will also pop out from behind the scenery and throw stuff at you. These can't be killed for some reason, so just prove a constant hazard whilst trying to avoid everything else. Because this is also a flick screen game, it's quite possible to get killed just at the end of a screen by an oncoming gremlin because you cannot run and gun. Billy stops every time you shoot. So you can't just be charging and pressing fire. You'll stop fire and then a gremlin will just come on and you'll be dead. You'll just see the edge of its sprite and you're like, God damn it, and you're back to the beginning of that screen. So because of the fact you can't run a gun, this kind of death is hard to negate. And these problems persist through all 5 levels and nothing ever changes. You move from screen to screen, trying to reach an object that you're not told about in the instructions, with no real feeling of advancement beyond moving from level to level and collecting random objects at the end of each level. The objects you do collect are the following. You collect Gizmo's box, a clock, a water supply, you have to capture the electric gremlin, and there's the hose pipe. I mean, okay. That's what you collect. They're marked by a G token somewhere in the level. Whilst the locations and visuals do a decent job of representing the film, the content here does not. This is a by-the-book elite game, reminding me of games like Scooby-Doo from way back, in that it may look like The Thing. It may borrow the the iconography of the game, of the film and the Gremlins or the or Scooby or whatever. It just does not in any way capture the feel of the thing. This is reskinned and with different music. This could be any game at all or any film. Replace Billy with Doug Quaid and have you collecting different items, and you could call this Total Recall. So on and so on and so on. This is boring design with just a slap Gremlin style visuals on top. There's nothing to this, no design really. It's also punitive and short. Once you figure out the platforms, there's little to offer here. A long play of this on YouTube is 9 minutes long, and that includes 20 seconds of title screen and 30 seconds of end screen and high score table. So it's about 8 minutes from start to finish, from starting to play to ending it, to running through this. That's not a lot of game. That's why it's really hard. That's it's the old Navy moves. It's that kind of game over type design here. It's like we've not got much game, so just make it rock hard and kill the player at every opportunity in loads and loads of really unfair ways. It's not really a Gremlins game, Riss. It's a flick screen platform with the Gremlins license slapped on it, with boring mechanics and good visuals and a fairly long loader to boot. There's nothing really much to this beyond that. It's another great film reduced to bare bones game design. Not for me, this. I didn't like it. And that score, what did it get? 38%? About right. Because it's good looking and then some nice sounds, title screen, but the actual game underneath it is your bog standard flick screen, shoot stuff, and it could be anything. So what did you think?
Yeah, all the same tropes, really. Repetitive backgrounds that annoyed me because as I'm running, I thought, am I just running past the same thing? It's like, I'm pretty sure the level design in this was where they placed a fire extinguisher on each level. That's how they differentiated each screen.
Yeah.
So the Gremlins were an afterthought. I wasn't sure why I was running along and suddenly be able to multi-shoot as a person. I'm like, what the hell is this crazy stuff going on in this? Mm-hmm. And the graphics are quite good, actually, on the C64 game. I thought they all looked all right, but this is, It felt like it had very little to do with Gremlins and more to do with, it was like a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up with people and creatures in it, but not really very Gremlin-y. It's just another thing where they've taken the very elementary theme of this and just made a really boring game out of it. And again, it's really, really hard with really annoying music. The game was just annoying. Like run along. Oh no, the timing of the Gremlin jumpy bounce thing meant that it was dead. All right, start again, then go back, start again, then go back. I'm like, you know what? I've had enough of this. Progression in this game was just a frustrated series of oopsie daisies. And I didn't enjoy the experience of it. I liked what I saw. I didn't like what I played. And again, that music I think because they overused it every time you restarted the game, you got that bloody piece of music. You're like, oh my gosh. So in the end, I was like, I have had enough of this. I don't care how many batches of Gremlins there are going to be. It could have, like you said, exactly that. It didn't even need to be a Gremlins game. This could have been anything. It just wasn't very good at being a Gremlins game. So, nor was it much fun. So, no, didn't enjoy it at all. 38%, yeah, I'd say it's a pity because the graphics on it are actually pretty good. But 38% is where that game lies. For once, an accurate review, I think, yeah.
Indeed. Gremlins.
Good dithering on the doors. When I was playing it, I was like, those elevator doors have got good shading dither. Although it means that the door is like really set back a ways because of the amount of shading on it. And
there was
the light sources. The light sources are also quite confused, but they have thought about it. They've thought about the light placement in that because it's just a little bit. And why aren't the Gremlins at the bottom of the screen? Why are they blue? Why aren't they green?
Well, they're Mogwais, aren't they? Yeah, well, I don't know. Mogwais aren't blue, are they?
Mogwai was brown. He wasn't bloody. He's brown. He wasn't blue, and he didn't wear a blue coat, and he didn't have blue ears, and he didn't smile like that. Yeah,
it's good, like good pipes and background work and things like that. There's some good. Yeah, it's a shame because whoever's done the visuals has done a good job. It's been stuck onto a game that could be anything. You change those sprites and change the Gremlins. It could be short circuit.
The game lacked imagination. It's just like all of the stuff you could have done with a fun game around Gremlins, and you just made somebody run along and shoot at things and avoid stuff. Like, we've seen it loads of times before, though, haven't we? That kind of thing.
Yeah, like especially by Elite. Yeah, like I said, it's just Scooby-Doo and stuff. Anyway, there we go. Gremlins 2. It's not very good. That music will just be etched into your brain.
Yep, very quickly.
At least they'll remove what a great service we give.
I'd rather have that.
True. That's it. There's only 8 games in May, so we've only got 2. We're going to go take a break, come back. We've got film and TV, the world of film and TV, in May 1991 in the UK. So stick with us and we'll go through that in a moment. And we're back. It's May. That can only mean one thing, Graham. 4th of May, Sweden's Carola wins the 1991 Eurovision Song Contest, which was staged in Rome, with Captured by a Stormwind.
Yeah, May the 4th be with you. Or is it Revenge of the 5th? Some people say that, don't they? Quite clever, that.
Sake.
I know. Yeah, exactly. Or some people say Revenge of the 6th as well.
I was going to say 6th, yeah.
Yeah, I think I prefer 5th because it's more like Sith rather than 6th, which is, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, Eurovision. Over time, over the years, I've come to I just lost all tolerance for the Eurovision. I know you and Gary have bloody giddy parties around it, but I can't really get behind it anymore. I tell you what, that's not. So the only thing I will say is that every year the staging of it blows my mind how crazy complicated they are.
The staging is incredible.
Absolutely. I mean, especially when you compare it to these 1991, where it is literally like it looks completely different. I found some clips of. I sort of did 10-year jumps, so I found the winner, what England was doing. United Kingdom was doing, and I found that sort of for each year. So 1991, 2001, 2011, and then 2021, just to see what the differences were. And the one thing you can say is the staging goes crazy good towards the end.
It's mind-boggling.
It's absolutely unbelievable. And nowadays, of course, you've got massive LED walls of screens and tunnels,
floors,
yeah. Drones, you name it. But back then in 1981, it was like the set of Blankety Blank had been sort of borrowed and stick a couple of Euro blocks, stick a couple of blocks in yellow, and also the songs. I also wanted to see how the songs have changed, and what you can really see is that they went from a very specific style of Eurovision to the modern one, which is kind of more like most of them are kind of dancey-ish with the odd really weird, quirky one. Whereas originally they were all kind of weird and quirky, so that's what kind of made everyone laugh about it. Now the production is getting quite good on them, and so really the quirky ones really stick out. And also the quirky ones sometimes really win, don't they? Because remember that death metal group that won it one year, I seem to recall, and they might have been they were Finnish, I think.
Was it Lordi?
I couldn't tell you and Gary are the experts and all that.
Yeah. But what I did notice in these clips you showed for Sweden, you've got the 3 clips of Sweden. Obviously, Sweden won in 91. So for Sweden in 2001, 2011, and 2021, they're all wearing red. I thought it was peculiar. What is it? Is it a thing? I don't associate the colour red with Sweden. That's all.
No, I think it was they're always about the themes of love, generally speaking, the Eurovision. So I wonder if they're like love hearts and those colours. Generally, more often than not, the logos for the Eurovisions are often a heart or a love heart or everyone together or let's be friends or, everyone's mates. Not so much now after we bailed on Europe during Brexit. Now it's like everyone, we're not all mates. And of course, Australia are in there bizarrely enough as well and all over the place. But yeah, it's a big, I think maybe they could drop the Eurovision and make it it's a big international singing competition or performance competition. And I suppose it is very unique in its position that it still runs. And I think sometimes they almost bankrupt countries if they win it to run it.
Yeah.
Because if you win it, right, you've got to host it the next year. And I think that didn't happen recently because I think it was Ukraine that won it, obviously, for many reasons that Ukraine couldn't host it. So I think we hosted it for them, didn't we?
Yeah, we hosted it in Liverpool, I think, didn't we?
That's right, yeah. And of course, tickets were a crazy hot item. And also all the people that had Airbnbs also went, hey, they've got the Eurovision. It's going to cost you 6 times more to rent a Airbnb in Liverpool during that time, let me tell you. But either way, I know you and Gary every year. You tweeting like having a live commentary. You two tweeting each other not tweeting, sorry, messaging.
Yeah, we've got a WhatsApp group
messaging.
It's just a good bit of fun evening. I did notice as well that on the 1999 winner, that Carola, there's a slight wind machine. Ever so slight wind machine on her, I did notice.
It's just, that was the height of technology back then. that was the most expensive machine they had.
That was staging. Then when I showed you actually the front of the stage sort of thing, it was just a bloke blowing through pumping a bellows. That was it.
It would have been exactly that.
that was the wind machine.
Some old guy going, "Oh, this is killing me! All this pumping."
Yeah, it was very different to those the Polish pumpers they had a few years back when they were making the milk.
Oh, when they were doing the milk. And then, what did surprise me when I was looking through there, that the United Kingdom entry in 2011, what a ringer. That was the boy band Blue. I'm like, we're getting a bit desperate when we're throwing in like popular boy bands in there. It's like, let's take that to do a entry into the Eurovision. And I don't think that's quite how it works, but okay, if you're going to do that. And they didn't win either, of course.
Of course they wouldn't. Blue are crap.
I think we only came close with that Sam. What's his name? Recently, that's the most recent one where we came. I think.
Yeah,
quite
we
close.
We came second to Ukraine.
Yeah.
That's why we ended up hosting it.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, but there you go. Eurovision, and it'll be upon us again. And no doubt you and Gary will be WhatsApping each other, and often not with Gary. It's more like check out the legs on that, on the Spanish entry, and we both said, well, he is a nice looking guy, Gary, but come on.
Yeah, true, very, very true. But Gary,
he did
Gary
have good
goes,
legs, though. He did have great legs.
Gary goes where Gary goes. 5th of May, BBC One airs the final season of the US drama series Dallas. Big thing, Dallas, wasn't it? But this time it's shown on a Sunday. It's shown on a Sunday afternoon, just 2 days after the final episode has been aired in the US. I mean, good Lord, Sunday afternoon. That's quite the come down, isn't it? Because Dallas. I remember Dallas like Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday nights or whenever it was, but Wednesday nights, whenever. But it's like it was the big centerpiece of the BBC. Evening schedule. It was massive, and everyone's like talking about it, especially around the Who Shot JR frenzy and stuff like that.
Yeah. But, well, you've got to remember though that was when US imports were quite rare, and we only had 4 channels. Now in this wall-to-wall Dallas era, remember what they said all those years ago? Well, we're going to end up with wall-to-wall Dallas. We didn't, because we ended up with wall-to-wall everything else, and Dallas was the one thing that got lost in the mix of all that. Because by this point, we've got US imports all over the place. Sky One or whatever it was called, Sky TV at the time, was dominating, and it was becoming the dominant force, wasn't it? There was all those jokes about Sky dishes on houses and stuff. And then, so Dallas kind of just got lost in the mix, I think. And did anyone really care towards the end? And by the way, the final scene at the end, I found the final scene from the final episode. It is downright weird. No wonder. No, did you watch it?
No, I didn't. What happened at the end? I never watched it.
So Larry Hagman is being confronted with what he thinks is an angel, because he's at the point where he's going to kill himself. And the angel's saying to him that, he should really do it. And then he realizes when he's getting to the point that he's not actually an angel, it's a devil. And his eyes glow red. Honestly, this is how it works out. His eyes glow red. And then Bobby Ewing comes in and walks in, and you hear a gunshot, because this guy's going, kill yourself, JR, kill yourself. You must do it. Bobby Ewing walks in after he hears the gunshot, looks at the floor and goes, then it ends. That's it.
Were they hoping for another season?
No, that was it. It was just, that's how they planned to end it, and it ended. And then, of course, it ended until they brought Dallas JR returns in a few years later. But
yeah, bloody. And then I think they brought it back again quite recently. There was another JR,
relatively
Dallas
recently.
show.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, because he was old, and he met with Cliff Barnes, and he was old, and it was it was just old Dallas.
Right. Yeah, that's not good, is it? Old Dallas.
No.
6th of May. This is exciting, isn't it? Eurosport briefly closes after the competing Screen Sport channel had filed a complaint to the European Commission over its corporate structure. The movie channel begins broadcasting 24 hours a day. Previously, the channel's been on air from early afternoon till the early hours of the next morning. It's exciting times in the world of TV. But the way the groundwork is being laid to the multi-channel 24/7 thing we have these days.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I didn't say there was. It's just
no. But what I mean is that the idea of all, it was just like they were all trying to jostle for position, weren't they? And nobody really saw Sky TV coming. It was the UK terrestrial TV just didn't see it, especially ITV. Firstly, they didn't see any of that really coming and not taking off in the way it did. So it really hit them for 6. And then, of course, all the other channels started scrambling about for popularity and. Who was going to be on the Sky Channel roster and all the rest of it. And like you said, the Wild West of TV is what it became. Not for me, though, because I didn't have Sky TV or Screen Sport or any of that. So if they complain to the European Commission, good on them. Because I didn't give a crap anyway. I wasn't watching it, and I've never watched Sky Sport for my whole life, and I never will. So
I had Sky Sport once for a bit, but Sky 3 was just Sky Sports 3 was just Sky Golf. Before it came Sky Golf, there's so much golf. You don't realise how much golf goes on in the world. They're always playing. There's always so much playing of golf.
That's the playing like Happy Gilmore. I'm not interested.
Nah, true to not.
Which, by the way, there's a sequel coming out too. So
Happier Gilmore?
No,
just Happy Gilmore 2.
It's Happy Gilmore 2, but it's got Shooter McGavin in it. The same guy's playing Shooter McGavin. He's back.
I thought he was dead.
No, he's not dead, and he's got Adam Sandler in it as well.
Oh, I thought he was dead.
No, he's not dead either.
I've been reading the wrong newspaper. 6th of May, the network television premiere of the 1987 gangster thriller The Untouchables on BBC One, starring Kevin Costner, Sean Connery, and Robert De Niro. We've spoken about Untouchables at length many times.
Yeah, we have. It's a great film, but the BBC, I can't imagine they showed that uncut at that time because this was heavy censorship era, wasn't it? So maybe they did.
Yeah. What would they cut though? Do you think they'd cut the entire enthusiasm, most of that bit?
Yeah, the bit where he beats the guy's brains out with a baseball bat, probably a little bit. Maybe one of the bat swings because he does it, I think he does it a couple of times. Maybe that. I think maybe the kid getting blown up at the beginning with a little Mister, boom. I think that might have been snipped. It's little snips they make. They're not. And the bit where he holds the guy up and shoots him in the mouth, even though he's already dead, I suspect that probably got held up somewhere. And the bit where Sean Connery gets machine gunned, maybe. I don't know. But generally, it was tiny little snips here and there, wasn't it? Just to trim the gory fat, as it were.
Is there much swearing in the film? I can't actually remember if there's much swearing in the film because that would have probably gone.
No, I don't remember that much swearing in it, actually, strangely.
Yeah, it's usually the swearing that gets heavily excised, isn't it? I can't remember. Yeah. Anyway, it's a good film, as we've said before. 8th of May, the first terrestrial television showing of Matthew Robbins' 1981 dark fantasy adventure Dragon Slayer on ITV, starring Peter McNichol, Caitlin Clark, Ralph Richardson, and John Hallam. Good film, this. It is a good film.
Yeah, it is.
Dark.
Really, really good. It is dark. Really good dragon effects at the time. I remember watching it at the time as well and thinking, this is actually pretty good. You don't get a lot of really good dark dragon movies because, think like Dragonheart, where you've got that, Sean Connery again doing the voice of the dragon, isn't he? And all that kind of stuff. But sometimes you need a dragon that's just really murderous. Remember that film, Matthew McConaughey, where the dragons are all in the sky? Rain of Fire. I think. Yeah, so sometimes you need meaty, nasty dragons in things, and in that one it is pretty nasty, isn't it? And there's some really gross scenes in it as well.
There's always Cue the Winged Serpent.
That's crap, and it's a serpent. It's not a dragon.
It's like a dragon, though. It's the same sort of thing. It's a flying snake thing. That's a dragon.
It would be called Cue the Winged Dragon if it was a dragon, wouldn't it?
Yeah, true. But then the dragons are always winged. I don't know. Anyway, Stupid. Same sort of thing. But yeah, Cue the Winged Serpent ain't very good. I watched that not too long back, and it's not good.
It's crap.
Rain of Fire's not very good either, by the way.
I watched that recently and quite enjoyed it.
Okay. Anyway. 13th of May, ITV airs an edition of World in Action, making allegations of malpractice in the Irish beef processing industry. The programme leads to the establishment of the Beef Tribunal, which is to become Ireland's longest public inquiry at this time.
Crazy.
Who knew there was such drama in beef?
Yeah, I know, beef about beef. I found some clips. When you put that search into YouTube, you'd be surprised how many various politicians at that time were just talking about beef to nobody. An empty room in Irish Parliament with a guy banging on about different beef things. It's like, wow, okay, it really was a major thing. But and of course, later down the line, of course, it turned into horse requirement.
I was going to say we had the horse thing over here, didn't we? Where there was found out that it was horses, not cows, in the beef.
And exactly. And I was in a restaurant recently. And horse was on the menu. And believe it or not, puffin. You believe that?
Puffin?
Puffin, yeah. I was in a restaurant in Iceland and on that menu was puffin and horse.
Puffin and horse?
Yeah, you could have puffin. I said to my wife, I can't eat that. I can't have a puffin. It's just so mean. Puffins are kind of cute, I always thought.
Is that? I think so. They're probably little shits. Like most animals. They've got a cute appearance, but most animals are shits.
What do they do with all them puffin beaks? Because that's a big beaked bird, isn't it?
That's they use that as the soup holder.
I didn't notice that in the restaurant.
They serve you the soup in a puffin beak.
Well, it wasn't puffin soup. It was just puffin. I'd imagined that it was a bit served like chicken, but with a big beak on it.
Whatever the soup is, they just use the puffin beak.
There wasn't any soup.
What kind of restaurant is this that don't do soup? Good Lord.
It was a restaurant that served puffin and horse. Soup wasn't high on their priority list.
Horse soup?
No, and of course the starters were like things like snails and stuff like that. And it wasn't even a particularly posh restaurant. This is just a day in the life in Iceland. That's how the Icelandic roll. They have a starter of fermented shark, knock down a schnapps, and then eat a puffin. They're a crazy strong brunch, them in Icelandic,
Fair enough.
I was watching them land fish, right, at the quayside when we were there. We're just walking by. They don't bother in nets. They just punch them out of the water. That's how hard they are there. Just literally punch the fish.
They just punch the water so hard. The fish fly out.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. They're just punching them. There's no messing about. And if you want to fish a fresh fish there, they ask you which one. It's personal for them.
take off their top, wander into the nearby fjord, and smack the water, and out comes loads of fish. Which one do you want? That one. All right.
Exactly.
I raised that fish.
Iceland. Love those Icelandic.
Yeah. 20th of May, one for you. The final episode of Thundercats is broadcast on BBC One. So question, Graham, you were nearly 18 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Were you watching it? Were you still watching Thundercats? Did you watch the final episode?
I didn't watch the final episode. I didn't even know they actually broadcast the final one on BBC because they had a tendency to not show sequences of cartoons in any discernible order. So there's no guarantee that they showed the final episode when it should have been shown. They just, for them, it's just the final, what they probably thought was the final episode. I actually watched the entire series of Thundercats because I ended up buying it and watched it on DVD when it came out many moons ago. And the ending is actually quite good, the way the story ends and everything else. So it's actually pretty good. And I found a really good summary of it on YouTube. You can watch the entire story of Thundercats in 59 minutes. So we'll stick that. Save you watching the whole thing unless you want to.
Does Mumra get his comeuppance? Or?
He does. Yes, he does get his comeuppance. Yeah, and he nearly sticks it to the Thundercats as well because he really does mess with them. But there's a final major dust-up between Lion-O and Mumra, and in the end, Lion-O actually wins. He has to go hand-to-hand, though. Can't fight Mumra with the Sword of Omens because at this point, he's used the Sword of Omens to create like a gyroscope to keep the new Thundera from becoming a desolate wilderness and cracking apart because Mumra's caused a lot of problems with the spirits of evil and all that.
Bloody Mumra.
Yeah, honestly, he keeps coming back. He's like, I'm back. You can't get rid of me that easily. I'm doing something even more dastardly. He even steals the Book of Omens at one point. So.
Jeddah's not going to be happy about that.
He isn't. They ask him for help and he's like, get it back. That's as much help as he was.
I hadn't finished it. I've got like 10 pages left. I want to know how it ends.
The thing is, you can only open the Book of Omens with the key, the special key. Of course, Mumra steals the key and the book because they keep it in the same place, which seems odd. But Lion-O is young, isn't he? He doesn't think about that.
I'd have thought Jeddah would have had it, down his pants.
No, he's a ghost. He's not there.
It could have been a ghost key.
Yeah,
this is a story about anthropomorphic cats. Anything could be real.
Well, Mumra's not an anthropomorphic cat. He's just an old guy that woke up in a bad mood. We've all been there.
True.
They keep waking him up. He goes back to sleep in his little thing, and they keep waking him up. That's why he comes out. Ah! I told you, stop waking me up. Whenever you wake me up, I do evil stuff. I'm Mumra. What do you expect? Now, let me go back into my bloody little coffin and go to sleep for a bit.
Mumra, but he's ever living, isn't he? Got to do something.
Ancient spirits of evil.
I mean, it's not come back because otherwise it'd just be the ever sleeping. Mumra, the ever sleeping, doesn't sound quite as terrifying.
Mumra. Well, yeah, I mean, he is ever living. It's very difficult to get rid of Mumra. Very difficult. He's been around here before for barbecues, and I tell you, it's like one of them guests. The barbecue's finished. You clean up the pots, and he's just sat there. And you're like, you need to go home, mate. You need to go home.
The barbecue finished 3 weeks ago.
Exactly.
Get out my garden. New shows. Of which Graham hasn't seen a single one of them.
I have never watched any of these. None of them. Not one.
To be fair, I've not heard of half of these. First, I've heard of this one. 1st of May was Josie. This was a short 6-episode series comedy with Josie Lawrence, sort of sketch show. It's at the same time that Paul Merton got his own show as well. The pair of them got their own shows, and Paul Merton.
I remember Josie Lawrence.
Yeah, but she had a short run show. Josie. 3rd of May, there was The Girl from Tomorrow. This is an Australian sci-fi children's television series produced by Film Australia. Don't know. So basically, it's a girl from the year 3000 at the start of the series, kidnapped by Silverthorn, a criminal from the year 2500, and brought back in time to the year 1990. Convenient for filming purposes.
Of course. Those expensive sets in the year 3000. Isn't A Girl from the Year 3000 the title of a song by some pop band?
Wanted. I want to say Wanted or McFly.
It sounds like one of them.
Or Busted.
Is that a song by them? Busted. It's one of them, isn't it? One of those one-word band names.
Busted, McFly, Wanted or something. It's something like that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. There's some special effects in it, as you can see there on that screen grab I got.
Yeah, it's magic. She can squirt baubles from her forehead.
She does as well. They spin around those baubles as well.
I can imagine that looks like they used an Amiga and a Genlock.
I think they did. I very much think they did. On 3rd of May is Second Thoughts, a British comedy television programme. Who cares? It's got Linda Bellingham and James Bolam in it.
Bellingham and Bolam together at last.
I know. Linda Bellingham was a bit saucy back then, wasn't she, when the Oxo. With the Oxo. She was the Oxo mum. She was
exactly. There's nothing milfy about her, if that's what you're implying.
She was good looking in those Oxo.
What are you on?
I think it's because I've seen Gary this weekend and he's...
You've been drinking too much gravy, mate. I don't know what you've been doing.
That photo's nice. Anyway, 4th of May, the Walvis family. This is weird. A television studio. This is off Wikipedia. Off IMDb. A television studio, 6 chairs, a table, a jug of water, family therapist, and 6 characters who don't necessarily want to be helped. Television history is made as the Walvis family embarks on 6 harrowing weeks of self-discovery in front of the cameras. Never heard of it, but It did remind me of that scene, the shock therapy sequence in The Simpsons season 1, episode 4, where they're all wired up with the electricity and they're slapping each other.
Sounds exactly like that.
I reckon someone saw that and made a show of it.
Yeah, they did a lot of this kind of... There was a lot of these weird one-off shows where they were trying to sort of break new ground with things. I mean, they even had a TV exorcism at one point where the guy just went, "Oh, yeah, I'm not possessed anymore," and that was the end of that. So,
was he on the toilet at the time? Because I felt possessed sometimes.
I think if it had been on the toilet,
nobody punch me.
I think if it had been on the toilet, it'd been more convincing. Honestly, the guy was just sat there and he was like, "I'm feeling quite possessed right now," and they were like, "Right, okay." Be gone. And he went, "Yeah, I'm not possessed anymore. It's gone." That was it. Everyone was the most disappointing TV episode of anything ever. You're like, watch it on Channel 4. Honestly, you can Google that and find it. Really.
I might have a look at that. That sounds terrible. Not as terrible as 4th of May, Shaky and George, a French children's animation. In France, it was called Shaky et George.
Really? I would never have guessed that.
Just in case you were wondering.
How imaginative.
Produced by animation studio City Group. I don't know.
Okay.
Who cares? 8th of May, Birthrights. What are these shows? BBC TV series, but, about UK politics, society, and race relations from a Black and Asian perspective. Can't say I ever watched it, but, fair play for being on. 10th of May, there was The Real McCoy, a BBC television sketch show comedy that ran from 91 to 96, featuring an array of Black and Asian comedy stars, featured many famous guest appearances, including Leo Muhammad, Ian Wright, Linford Christie, and Frank Bruno. It's weird that 3 of them, I don't know who Leo Muhammad is, but 3 of them are sports people, not comedians.
Yeah, true. I don't know. I never watched it, so I would never know what it was like.
No. 14th of May, All Good Things. Brenda Blethyn and Warren Clark comedy, supposedly. Good Lord. No. 17th of May, A Perfect Hero. Nigel Havers thing.
Oh, he was big. He was a big TV mum's favourite, wasn't he, for a while, Nigel Havers. So
Nigel Havers, yeah. He was posh, wasn't he? He was quite
bit of posh crumpet, yeah.
Absolutely. Before Colin Firth came along and took all that with his Mr. Darcy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with a big cup of tea and a couple of bags of minstrels, and that's it. You were eating them seductively while you're watching Nigel Havers put his RAF uniform on. Well, not you personally, of course.
No, the
mums. It was one for the mums. I know it's or the mummy-like people.
Absolutely. Whenever he came on, sort of thing, I could hear the crack of a minstrel shell.
Exactly. Like, oh, oh, look at him in that uniform.
Oh, Nigel.
Oh, I've dropped my minstrels in me tea. Oh.
I better pop another one in.
Oh, we could crack my minstrels any day. Oh.
I can't go any further with that. I could go. No, I can't do it. 21st
I'd squeeze his tea bags.
What? What's that got to do with minstrels?
He was having a cup of tea, remember?
Oh, true. Yeah, minstrels and cup of tea. That's true.
Honestly,
yeah. I'm just chocolate obsessed. 21st of May is Teenage Health Freak. This was a British teen comedy drama television series about the life and travails of a socially awkward teenage boy. I Smell Adrian Mole ripoff.
Yeah, it totally sounds exactly the same, but also boring and rubbish. It lasted a while, though. So.
Yeah, true, it did. 26th of May was The Black Candle.
Okay, sounds ominous.
1880s Yorkshire. I don't know.
Oh, no wonder they had black candles. That's the most bleak period in Yorkshire history.
Yeah. Do you want me to read out the plot synopsis here?
If you feel the need, yeah.
Joe Skinner marries Lily Whitmore, the woman he has long admired, to give a name to her illegitimate child by Lionel Fillmore, the opportunistic son of an impoverished aristocrat. Lionel, however, has his sights set on Victoria, the naive cousin of hard-working Bridget Mordaunt, and the wealth he wrongly assumes is hers. When Joe's shiftless brother Fred threatens his marriage plans, Lionel murders him and the blame falls on Joe. Bridget's warm regard for Joe sets her on a quest to prove his innocence, the pursuit of which reveals the sordid manipulations and evil that surround Lionel. Just when Lionel believes his crime will never be discovered, Douglas, his gentle sculptor brother, finds the murder weapon and the killer's identity.
You know, that reads like one of those logic puzzles. I expect it to get so. On Wednesday, how many Joes were involved in a murder? It's like one of those real logic puzzles, isn't it? You think, I've got to try and work that out.
So if Joe is Lionel's dad, who is Frank's brother?
Yeah, you're like, oh God, that's so complicated. What a convoluted load of guff. It sounds like the plot for Bridgerton to me, like an early version of Bridgerton, because that's all people wandering around the grounds of a stately home, what looks like to me, dressed in fancy outfits, talking about, oh, are you going to get married next week? I don't know. Are you getting married next week? It's the most boring premise for a show I can possibly imagine, even though they
Bridgerton
periodically dance. Yeah, I don't get it.
Periodically dance and then have really, really raunchy sex.
Yeah, no, I was watching an episode of that. My wife and my daughter are very into it. So I'm sat, just sat in the lounge while it's on, waiting for the next program to come on. Watching that, and then it all got very saucy very quickly, and it was all very awkward, I have to tell you. I was watching things happen in the back of a carriage I didn't expect to see. But I guess that's what people like, maybe these days. It's not my cup of tea, but...
No, it's not mine either. I prefer minstrels.
I was going to say, I wasn't cracking any minstrels to that. Oh, look at him in that uniform.
Your wife was, though. The sound of minstrel cracking in your front room at that point.
Heavy. I'll tell you what, it went from that to them mini eggs. It was all mini egg that time.
There's just shards of hard Cadbury's everywhere.
You know it's serious if the magnums come out, like the cracking on that can shatter windows. Blow the windows out.
Graham, are you still here? I'm just leaving the room.
Exactly.
27th of May, Timeless Tales from Hallmark. Olivia Newton-John introduced a series of 8 fairy tales for children, followed by an environmental message in 1990. There were originally video cassettes from Hallmark, and they were released by Hanna-Barbera Home Video.
Okay, well, all right.
It's really weird.
It's a bit of an odd thing, that, but Olivia Newton-John, okay. She was always a very nice person.
Yeah, she's in it for about a minute at the beginning.
That's all they could afford.
Yeah, absolutely. It was Olivia Newton gone.
They paid her in like gift tokens and cards, like Christmas cards, birthday cards. She wanted a card, she got it.
In minstrel shards. 27th of May's More Winners.
Right.
This was the follow-up to Winners.
Okay.
Which was an Australian children's television anthology series conceived and produced for the ACTF by Patricia Edgar. She was convinced it was going to be the best thing ever. I never heard of it.
She lied.
She thinks she did. 28th of May, finally just rounding off TV, was the Tuesday Special. This was a topical television show on ITV, and each program dealt with a different topic, including, this goes weird, trauma, let's say what kind, bingo, making babies, and road rage. An episode broadcast 21st of December 1995 revealed and scrutinised the stories of people whose experiences have led them to believe they've lived a former life, including a woman who believed she was Mary Queen of Scots. Sometimes celebrities were called upon to present certain entries in the series, including actress Lynn Perry, that's Ivy Tilsley in it from Corrie, who presented Clairvoyance in November 1994. And there she is, look, lovely Lynn Perry.
Absolutely crazy. I'm half expecting to see a breakdown of the Tuesday Special on Stuart Millard's amazing YouTube channel, where he's delving into what can only be described as the dark depths hellscape of UK TV specials and all sorts of weird stuff. And the stuff he's finding is incredible. It's an amazing YouTube channel. Go and check it out. But I suspect that show is going to end up on there at some point. I don't doubt it.
I thought so. That one you showed that link to the other day, the Gulf War special.
Oh, so bad. Gulfade.
Gulfade, hosted by Jim Davison. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it ever in my life.
It's so bad. It's bad and it's shocking. And I don't know what shocked me more: the fact that they're singing
Bear in mind, this was also sponsored by the Sun newspaper at the time. And at the end of that show, which is it was a show that they made, which was like a live show, a Gulf Aid, which was meant to be for soldiers in the Gulf War and the charity and around there.
Yeah.
Featured a load of cabaret acts. It's a bit like a variety performance, with all these variety performers from God knows where. But it ended with I think they dragged Vera Lynn out to sing "We'll Meet Again," and after that they sang "You'll Never Walk Alone," which, considering this is sponsored by the Sun newspaper, I would argue was the most bad tasting they could possibly have done. So
Yep.
Shocking.
Yeah.
But then, it's the Sun newspaper. What do they care? But at the time, though, go and watch the channel that I mentioned, because that is amazing. And it's not. In fact, I'll post a link to the show notes to a couple of the videos that are on there. Stuart Millard is honestly, it's one of the best things that Paddy. I can't discover that. Paddy, my friend, sent me the link, and he's like, "You got to check these out." And it is a real breath of fresh air on YouTube. So I'll post a link to it.
Into films. So 3rd of May, you could have watched The Hard Way. John Badham film.
Yeah, never seen it.
It's Michael J. Fox and James Woods, if I remember rightly. I do believe
it is. Yeah, it is.
I think Michael J. Fox is a Hollywood type, and he's paired up with James Woods because he's going to be a cop in a film, isn't he? And that's the premise of this. It reminded me of the film Ride Along with Ice-T and
probably similar, probably same thing actually.
Yeah, it's the same sort of idea, but I don't remember. I think I've seen this. Very of its time, very predictable. I don't think if you watched it, you go, "Yep, it's exactly what I was expecting."
Yeah.
Same day, you could have seen The Ballad of the Sad Cafe.
No, never saw it. Simon Callow directed that. So.
Yeah, he was the guy who dies, isn't he? 4 Weddings.
He is the guy that dies, and the Scottish guy that dies, yes.
Yes, he is, yes. If you didn't fancy either of those, and you wanted something that you probably, if you're listening to this, I reckon you probably got to go see this. It was Predator 2.
Yeah, you might have seen it. I never saw it at the cinema, strangely enough, that.
I'm not sure if I did, actually. I think I might have done. I could have done it because obviously I was old enough. I like this. I do like Predator 2. It is very much of a different tone to the first one. You have to get past the first 15 minutes, which are pretty awful. I don't really like the first 15 minutes of this film, but once you get past those bits, I think it actually turns into a pretty decent sort of film. And the Gary Busey hamming it up terribly, but is what it is. I quite like it. I like Predator 2. What are your thoughts on it?
I think that it's a film that has some really good thoughts and some really good ideas, but it's just too long. And there's too many scenes that aren't necessary in it.
Yeah, the first 15 minutes, he killed them.
Well, not just that, but there's entire sequences later on that are just completely unnecessary. The
King Willie intervention of the car and stuff.
Well, not just that, but it's just it spends ages doing nothing in a Predator film. And the Predator, it spends ages watching him doing nothing. And there's loads of that in this film, loads of unnecessary bloat. And then the last, it sort of builds up to a really great sequence. There's a couple of really, really great sequences. In the tube train, the underground sequence is a brilliant sequence. In any movie, that would be good, but it's particularly good here. So there's a great sequence there. And then the end sequence up until the point when he goes in the spaceship and all the Predators appear, and that the sequence with Danny Glover and chasing after the Predator, that's good. But the bit before that with Gary Busey's team who get annihilated in a warehouse full of beef and all this stuff, and just silly implications that, they discover that the Predators like to eat beef. It's like, well, it's really stupid. And the entire, like you said, the first section's completely unnecessary. It's not required. And there's a lot of that in this. So it's bloated. And because of that, it's about 35 minutes too long. It could have been, if they'd tightened the screws, there's nothing wrong with some of the characterization in it, albeit that it is a bit cheesy and obvious. But I quite liked Danny Glover's character in it. He's this cop that's really struggling to cope in this kind of environment that he's in. He's finding all sorts of crazy, but then they just fill it full of stereotypes. You've got the kind of his Mexican psychic and this Hispanic woman, and then you've got the cocky, and he's a really good character in it, Bill Paxton, but he's kind of the cocky guy, but he starts differently. His character arc starts completely differently to how it ends, and ends way better than it starts, because of course he ends up getting killed on the best sequence in the film by far, which is in the underground train, which is a great sequence in this. But like I said, I still quite like it for what it is, and it's still better than many of the other Predator films that came after it. So
I don't know if there's maybe Prey, which I think is better than this, but
yeah, Prey's another good one. But there's so many others in between. Predators, the Predator, they're all a bit odd. But.
Yeah, I don't think there's been a better one since. That's what I'm saying. There's not been, none of them have been better than this, apart from Prey. I don't think any of the
post-Predator 2 films. More of a remake of Predator, isn't it, in its own kind of way. But there's not a bad thing. At least Predator 2 was trying to do something a little bit different.
But the problem there is, of course, it struggled in the environment it was in. It set this thing in the city, which is a great idea, and then just kind of had the Predator wandering around, not doing a lot, and periodically making silly noises and things. And there's a sequence in it where Danny Glover goes to the funeral of his friend, and the Predator's watching Danny Glover at the funeral. And it's like, what? It's an entire sequence of that. It's like, why is that even in it?
That's a fair point. I've never thought about it in that respect, but yeah, why is he there? Why is he watching?
It's what I mean. It's just because it's just filmic hyperbole. It's totally unnecessary. Just cut to the chase, literally, in this.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, it does kick off though. For the last half hour, it gets fun.
I say that's what I was expecting is a film full of that, not that cheesy opening with that. No, what's he called? That the something is ready and all that. There's so many cliched representations of Latinos in this film. It's off the chart. And then to really ham the message home, you're bringing the bloody Jamaican voodoo posse with the king, really, man. It's like just having a car full of Jamaicans smoking weed. It's like, what are you doing?
They're doing Predator 2 the only way they knew how. Anyway, but it's probably the best this week. Everybody Wins was also out that day. Deborah Winger and Nick Nolte. I don't know what to say about this.
Nick Nolte looks greasy and sweaty. That's all you can say. In the trailer, he's sweating so profusely. I'm like, my gosh, he's so sweaty.
You're greasy. Mr. Wedgie, I need to take a break. Finally, if you didn't fancy that, you could have seen In the Realm of the Senses. Finally, 15 years after it came out. This is I Know Corrida, isn't it? Is I Know Corrida? Is that the original name for this? Is that the original?
I want to say yes. I don't know.
I think it might be. I don't know. But anyway, this was a sort of saucy film from the 70s that got a bit banned and stuff and what have you. It is what it is.
Well, no, that's the thing. It didn't get banned. They just got told to play it in certain cinemas only. It was at the time of all the video nasties and all of that. This was the one that was not a video nasty because it's art and it was just full of smut. I mean, he shoves an egg up a lady's hoo-hoo. That's not very nice. It does eat it, I suppose. So you don't waste an egg because I don't like to see a film where any eggs get wasted, I have to tell you. But at the same time, it was famous for...
There's a Cadbury's cream egg joke there that I just can't quite get.
How do you eat yours? I know exactly how he eats his in that film. It's very clear. But it was a film that was, I think, made more famous because of its representation around the time of who it's so smutty. And it was like, well, you can only show it in certain cinemas at certain... The names for those cinemas are XXX cinemas. There's no... You can't make it, it's art. It's like... Anyway, it came out years later and it was actually pretty boring. Surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise. 10th of May, you had Misery. What a great film. A really, really good. The best, I think, probably the best of Stephen King adaptation.
It's one of the better ones, isn't it? Yeah. At that time, easily. I mean, goodness me, we're not that far from that crappy bloody vampire thing, which is god-awful.
Sleepwalkers.
Don't even mention it so bad. I've seen that cinema. I have nightmares about that.
I mean, this is heightened because you've got two really, really good central performances from James Caan and Kathy Bates.
Absolutely.
Kathy Bates is just excellent in this. And she's so good as... I can't remember the character's name right now, but she's so good as the sort of antagonist or the number one fan.
She is. She's amazing.
I should remember it because I actually watched it today. This is another rewatch, and it's just a really good sort of claustrophobic film with some proper moments.
Well, it's tense. It's a very tense film all the way through, and she is amazing in that. I mean, her performance is astonishing. Annie denied the Oscar. Annie is Annie, isn't it? Annie something.
It's Annie something, yeah.
But
I was going to say Annie Sugden, but that's a different thing.
I think she gives an Oscar-worthy performance in that. In any normal year where you don't have Silence of the Lambs, she would have probably got an Oscar for that performance because it's particularly good. But I don't know. I actually watched it not long ago. I didn't watch it recently, but not that long ago because I tried to watch all of the Stephen King adaptations, or as many as I could, which is why I know that Sleepwalkers is a stuff of nightmares. But it's excellent, Misery, and genuinely, it's very tight, taut direction as well. There's some amazing tense sequences in that, particularly when she notices that he's moved a little penguin and stuff like that. You're like, oh my God, you're really on the edge of your seat with that. What she's going to do. And then horror happens and you're like,
Is it a thing in Stephen King films and stories? And I sort of noticed it today that you think help's turned up and then they get killed.
Yeah, that does seem to be. It happens in The Shining, doesn't it, as well?
Because The Shining's the other one. I was trying to think if there's other ones as well, and I wonder if there are.
I bet there is. I bet if you look at it, it's a trope. It'd be a Stephen King trope. I don't doubt that.
Yeah, because Scatman Crothers gets
Salem's Lot happens as well, I think, technically.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. So it's one of those things, but yeah, Misery's great, and it still stands up, and it's still really good.
Yes, go watch it. Yeah, good.
And the hobbling, like I said, the hobbling scene is different to the book.
Yes, it is.
But I think it's equal. It's actually more painful.
Yeah, and Stephen King Stephen King said he actually really when he read Sorry, he said, actually, I wish I'd written that and not what I did. So
yeah,
that was his acknowledgement, because I think it had visually in a film, cutting his leg off would have been horrible, but what she does do with the hammer and that is pretty horrible, and it is visually. Nobody likes breaking bones, sawing a leg off. Nobody can relate to that, but a broken bone or deliberately breaking a bone and seeing bones out of place, nobody likes to see that, and it's an uncomfortable thing for everybody. It's pretty clever, that.
Yeah. If you didn't fancy Misery, you could have gone seen Taking Care of Business.
Yeah.
An uptight of advertising execs his entire life in a file of facts, then it gets nicked by a convict. It's a James Belushi film, so you know what to expect.
Yes, the era of Belushi is upon us.
It's been Santi.
Yeah, exactly. Belushi. I still say Belushi sounds like the sound. Belushi's the sound it makes when you throw a giant rock into a swimming pool.
Yeah, fair enough. If you didn't fancy either of those two, you could have gone seen Zanderley.
Okay.
I've never heard of this. What is it?
No.
Do you know?
No,
okay.
I've never heard of it, and I would never have seen it.
No.
Just looked saucy from the video poster trailer. It looked like one of those kind of things.
But was it heavily rented? Probably wasn't, because people never heard of it.
It looked very brown and sweaty on the video covers, I recall.
Like Nick Nolte.
Yeah, maybe not as sweaty as that.
on the Nolte rating of sweat,
the Nolte scale,
the Nolte chart. What film would this coming out? This is another 48 hours. This is another 48 hours. He's not quite got to whatever that other one was.
Exactly. So
everybody wins.
5 or 6 on the Nolte scale. It's not too heavy of sweat.
The Nolte level of sweat. 17th of May, there was LA Story.
Interesting little film, that.
Yeah, it's good, quirky. As you said, good quirky film. It's heartwarming and hilarious. It's a Steve Martin, obviously, film as he's sort of progressed into this more kind of, left behind the kind of outrageous kind of comedy stuff of his early 80s into this more sort of serious or more what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know what the word is.
Slapstick. It's not a slapstick anymore,
it's not
is
slapstick,
it?
But this is kind of more. It's more thoughtful, isn't it?
Yeah, humble comedy, really.
Yeah, and there's some great scenes in this. It's, as I said, it's not laugh out loud, but there's some really good scenes in this. The where the road signs talking to him is really nicely done. The end sequence is brilliant. With the music and everything, and and I think. Having watched it again today, I think they've wholesale almost pretty much nicked it completely for 4 Weddings and a Funeral.
How do you figure that out?
Because they're moving apart. Then she gets in. It's in the rain and everything. They're I don't know. I just watched it today and I went, that looks exactly like the 4 Weddings and a Funeral ending, where this that crappy line.
When was the last time you watched 4 Weddings and a Funeral?
She comes back from, doesn't she? She comes back to his house and they're in the rain, and she goes, we need to get in the rain. She goes, is it raining? I hadn't noticed or something. It's that shitty line. And that's what happens at the end of 4 Weddings, which is
he disrupted a wedding at the end of 4 Weddings.
No. She comes back from Andy McDowell.
All right. Fair enough. Can't remember, but just
because they're in the rain.
I think it's just a romantic trope, isn't it? Somebody comes back for somebody that they thought they weren't into, and it turns out they were, and there's been obstacles.
It's a very good ending. And that Richard E. Grant line, is it I'm all hot from running? I thought it was all sweaty.
Yes,
I can't remember.
No, I'm all hot from running now. It's the thing is, I've always thought LA Story is a good compilation of mini little sketches of things, but as a whole, and the thread that weaves it together is the most interesting thing in it, and it does have a great use of Enya, which not often you can say that.
Yes.
So, and it's not the Celts by Enya, is it? But I forget what it is. It's Boadicea, isn't it, by Enya? Boudica, sorry.
The end piece of music, which
it's Boudica by Enya, which is really good, and it is that kind of vibe and the sign slow, all the clear and the music. It is great, that part. No argument from me at all. I mean, it's a perfectly fun little film in its own weird way, and there's some really interesting side swipes at LA culture of the time, and also this. But it's Richard E. Grant's always an interesting character in anything he's in, I always think. And in this, he's kind of an odd English buffoon, of which this was the way they kind of treat English characters at the moment in this is there's a little bit of English buffoonery going on. Oh, I'm all hot and sweaty and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just because there's a bit where they take money out, and there's that guy, I'll be your mugger for tonight, and things like that.
Yeah, that sort of thing. And he goes roller skating around the museum and stuff like that, doesn't he? And it's got, what's her name in it? Young Carrie Bradshaw in it, whatever her name is. I can't remember her name.
Sarah Jessica Parker.
Yeah, she's in it. Very young in that.
Yeah.
She's his
they
love
go for
interest.
a walk in Edinburgh at one point as well.
Yeah, something like that, yeah. It's all a bit odd.
Yeah, very odd. If you didn't like that, you could have gone seen Enid is Sleeping.
Could have.
A wife surprised her cop husband in bed with her kid sister. In the ensuing struggle, the wife is accidentally killed. Can they keep it a secret? If you ain't guessing from that, it's a comedy.
I would never have guessed comedy at that.
No, but it's got, if I told you it had Judge Reinhold in it,
Yeah, again, he's in everything, isn't he, that guy?
Yeah, he's bloody everywhere at this point. He's all over the place.
Yeah.
24th of May, there was White Fang.
Yeah, I'm
classic
not
story
that.
in it. Yeah, no, I don't think I've seen that version, but it's it's another version of the classic story.
Yeah.
Followed by that, there was Guilty by Suspicion.
Yeah, interesting premise. It sounded good. I mean, it's De Niro, isn't it? But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think I think I've seen it. I might have seen it. I'm not sure. I don't think I have. But it's basically a story about McCarthyism.
It is.
There, if you didn't fancy that, Problem Child.
I've never liked any of the Problem Child movies at all. Don't like them.
No, it feels to me like they saw the this Home Alone sequence where he takes on the thieves and tried to make thought that's funny. Child beats up or adults and tried to make an entire series out of it, and that was that. That was the premise. Whereas completely missing the point of that bit in the film and everything in Home Alone and how it fits into the wide story and all that, but it's not very good. I don't like it.
It's an odd extension of Dennis the Menace logic. Bratty kid does what he wants and hurts people along the way. There's a lot of testicle violence in that film. In fact, there's a lot of testicle violence in all of them. Just scenes of people getting kicked in the balls, punched in the throat. It's just violence to adults from this kid, and he just scoffs and laughs. It's a naughty Norman Price of the American film world. He's the kid's a demon and would probably have been locked up long, long, long ago.
Yeah, probably.
But there's made 3 Problem Child movies, I think, in the end. This is the first one of a few.
Yeah.
All of them the same. They're all exactly the same and not funny. Although I used to know a person that really thought they were funny. So,
used to know is the key there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Mermaid was also out. We've been seeing the Shoop Shoop song popping up. So now we've got the film. I think I watched that for Winona Ryder probably. And,
of course you did. You mildly obsessed maniac. It's obvious that you did.
I know, whatever.
She could have done a dump in an egg cup and you'd have watched it. Well, I know you would have.
And I have.
Over and over and over again.
That tape was worn thin. If you didn't fancy either any of those, you could have seen Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead.
Yeah, good film that, actually. Quite fun.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we went to. Did I go with you? I'm sure I went to Whitgift to see this.
Yes, I did go to the Whitgift to see it, and it was probably with you.
Yeah. It's quite a good film, that.
Yeah.
31st of May. If you don't know, it's the guards from Hamlet, and it's the story from their perspective.
Yeah, it's good. It's really clever as well.
Yeah. 31st of May. There was Silence of the Lambs.
Yes. Huge film.
Yeah, this was. I mean, you've noted here that you don't think it's as good as Hannibal.
Over time, I don't think it's as good as Hannibal. It's not to say it's a bad film because it's amazing. It won 5 Oscars. It's an amazing film.
Yeah.
But I prefer the version of Hannibal Lecter in Hannibal than the version that's in Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, what, the character or the film? I'm just on about the film.
No, I like the not the film. The films, I think they're both very, very good. But I prefer Hannibal's version of Hannibal Lecter than Silence of the Lambs version of Hannibal Lecter.
Right. Okay. It's fair enough. I think I think I'd prefer this one on both counts. Although there's Manhunter, who's thrown Manhunter in as well, I guess. But I just love the way this is directed. There's something about an unusual. Those front on cameras. A lot of looking into the camera. It feels very claustrophobic a lot of the time. There's a lot of the conversations are shot. You don't really see. It's usually shot reverse shot over shoulder, or at least at an angle. It's very unusual to see a film where people are talking directly into the camera, which is an unusual sort of technique to use. Kind of makes this feel feels like a different. We didn't get much like this, at the time. and I don't think we've had much like it. I don't know, but I always noticed that as something that when they filmed this.
I mean, it's gothic horror. It's Grand Guignol, isn't it? In many ways as well. The Silence of the Lambs. A good performance from Jodie Foster. Pity she didn't take it up for Hannibal, really, but it's a good performance from her. And of course, he won the Oscar for best. So you can't really. I'm not saying that it's not a great performance, because it's genuinely amazing and quite horrific too, and not one you'd expect from Anthony Hopkins either. So it's just all of those things come together, and it's a very good film. I think it's a little bit of a silly portrayal of Buffalo Bill. I don't think it's not the greatest step forward for diversity in films.
That's the thing that hasn't stood up to modern.
But that's from the book as well, isn't it? That's not the problem. That's not necessarily the foot of that doesn't land wholly at the film. That's the source material as Buffalo Bill's. That's the character Buffalo Bill in it. That said, it is at the time it was astonishing. I mean, it grossed like megabucks, that one. It's a humongous hit and a sleeper hit as well. This wasn't something that was an instant hit. This grew over time because people started to realize how good it really was. Now, I say all that. Only reason I prefer the version of Hannibal Lecter in Hannibal is because I think his relationship is more interesting with Clarice in that than it is in Silence of the Lambs, although it is interesting in Silence of the Lambs. I just prefer that. And I liked his understatedness in that. It gets a lot of criticism for it because everyone says it's not a great film, and fair enough, it's maybe not. It's Ridley Scott, isn't it, in this one, instead of Jonathan Demme, was it? Mm-hmm. Very different styles, very arty, and very different look and feel. But I just liked the fact that Hannibal Lecter in the Hannibal is very much about desperately trying to get Clarice's attention, whereas in the other one, he's just trying to mess with her all the time and cause trouble for her. Or maybe he fancies her and he's trying to help. Who really knows? But yeah, but it's one that you have to watch. Got to go and see it just for and not for the silly Chianti and all that silly bit, but go and watch it for the other amazing sequences where he has the conversation with the mayor about when he's he's lying to them all about where she is and what he knows, and then it just gives her that cold speech about what will you do when she's on the slab and all that, and it's just like really good stuff, really good TV stuff. Really good film stuff.
It's very good.
Never saw it at the cinema though.
No, I don't think I did either.
My dying shame, I never did.
Yeah. If you didn't fancy that, and it's probably the best one out this week, there was Graveyard Shift, another Stephen King short story adaptation. Originally written in 1970. This,
is that one you've watched? Because I've never watched it, but
I watched half of it. It's rubbish.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is that there's so many of them are.
It's really, really crap. It's just bad. It's just bad and cheap. I was reading about this on the wikis, and they were trying to cash in on the success of Pet Sematary and try and be the first next Stephen King adaptation straight out the gate to sort of cash in on. Yeah, as Pet Sematary was quite well received and did quite well.
That's such a good adaptation, though. The recent remake of Pet Sematary is a brilliant Stephen King adaptation.
They were both quite good. Unlike Stephen King, but Graveyard Shift, which was it's very cheap. It's very of its 1990 time. It looks.
Is it a full book as well, or is it like a short story?
No, it's a short story because it was originally it was like I said, short story written in 1970 was then included in Night Shift,
right?
Collection of short stories.
Okay,
it's about a weird evolution of rats that have become cut off and lost in this kind of caves underneath this mill and have evolved into these weird creatures.
Right, okay.
Anyway, if you didn't fancy that, there was sibling rivalry. Kirstie Alley sleeps with an old guy and he dies.
Okay.
That's what I got from the trailer of this. I don't think I ever watched this. But, if you like Kirstie Alley, you'll probably like this. And if you didn't fancy that, finally, there was a new partner at the races, also known as Le Cop 2. Or a cop do.
Yeah.
A team of corrupt policemen return when they face with really wicked colleagues. Something. Never heard of it. Have you ever heard of it?
I've heard of Le Cop 2, but I can't honestly think why, and I don't know.
No.
So
I don't know why it's called. I don't know where the title "My New Partner at the Races" comes from.
No, I don't. It's something confusing about all of that, and wouldn't certainly have tickled my fancy at the time.
So there you go. Lots going on. Some really good films out that month. This is good. But not much on TV that we'd actually heard of. We're going to go away, take a quick break, have a nice Chianti, and then we'll be back. We've still got 2 games. We've got what's going out. We've got the charts. We've also got a singular crapvert to look at. So please do stay with us. And we're back We're back to see the back of May 1991. Still 2 games. Graham, the first one. Well, it's over to you to tell us all about the strange occurrence of Moonfall.
Yeah, Moonfall. This was not issued with a price in Zap because there was an enormous delay of this coming out. In fact, it's because it's all tied up into when Houston went bust.
Yes,
and they later resurfaced as 21st Century Entertainment, and so this game was actually originally created 2 years before this in I think 1989. So this was 21st Century Entertainment. Creator was Duka Tapanimaki. I think that's how you say that. He was previously responsible for Netherworld and Zamzara. They weren't bad old games. In fact, got a history of doing some good stuff. What it does say immediately on the lemon for this is that he received only the first part of his payment for this from Houston Consultants, and he wasn't paid any royalties after the company went bust and resurfaced as 21st Century Entertainment. So he never really made the money that he should have out of this game, which is a little bit rotten, isn't it?
Yep, very much so.
So again, it depends on. So Duka himself was, I think, Finnish. Wasn't he? I think from Finland.
I believe so, yes.
And this was a late attempt. I think it's his last game officially made on the C64. And I think we can probably understand why, or at least it was the last one that's in the legacy of games that he'd made. He sadly passed away now. And this was an attempt to breathe some life into a kind of the 3D space shooting simulation at the time. So instantly, obviously, you're in the realm of Elite and games of Mercenary and things like that. It was originally sent to Houston Consultants for release, but as the company went bust, he only received his first payment. The game was still released by 20th Century Entertainment, which was basically the same game, but resurfacing under a new name. So little bit cheap, really, that, isn't it? Anyway, what's it all about? Well, there's a large, extensive blurb for this. And I'm not going to read all of the blurb because there's a lot of it. But it does say, the Frontier Alpha. Daedalus 1, the first spaceship ever built by man, was ready for takeoff in 2052. Its destination was Wolf 359, which anyone in Star Trek knows is an important place. A small red star some 8.1 light years away. After several generations, the voyage was over and the scientists were prepared to start colonizing the planets. However, they had a major shock. The solar system had 2 gas giants and a series of asteroid belts, but no planets that could have supported suitable life for human colonies. Further investigation revealed that among the asteroids flew thousands of small, automatically controlled mining crafts. Probably the aliens had blown up all the planets to make some mining easier. By tracking the alien ships, they finally located an object that was too big to be an asteroid, but too small to be a planet. So it had to be a moon that didn't orbit a planet anymore. They started to call it the Frontier Alpha. The moon turned out to be a base for more than one alien life form. The majority of the colonies were ruled by strange robotic creatures, the roboforms. The Remusians, small bug-eyed humanoids, seemed to have a less active role. If they could live together in peace, then there certainly should be enough room for humans. They were wrong. The relationship between the 2 life forms was rather special. The Remusians were actually the creators of the roboforms. After many centuries of technical evolution, the robots had started to act independently. For them, the purpose of life had 3 aspects: explore, produce, make profit. Very similar to our own, really. Mm-hmm. The starship Daedalus was captured by the roboforms, and the crew were forced to work as slaves in moon bases for working for precious moonstones. I've added that.
Precious moonstones.
And they got killed with giant spiders, and they didn't. Power plants and factories. There are rumors that some scientists managed to escape and establish hidden human colonies. So Operation Moonfall then. Prospects for escape were not promising. The concept of taking the roboform army by force was totally ridiculous. The only way was to win their confidence by becoming one of them. You are the first human that was granted a trading permission. The word trading sent a shiver down my spine at this point. The roboform transporters were not suitable for a human, so they gave you a modified X-Terminus class freighter. And again, I went, ugh. Originally used by the Remusians. Secretly, the human scientists modified it further by installing more powerful engines and better weapon systems. The Frontier Alpha isn't exactly a very secure place. The Remusians and even the roboforms have outlaws that want to use your ship for target practice and like to have some free cargo. In addition to this, the moon is very famous among the space pirates because the roboforms don't ask any questions if someone wants to buy or sell something. The trading pilots have 5 ratings indicating their success in battle. The ratings applied to a human pilot are Dove, Raven, Orchid, Sun, and Supernova. The first 4 are divided into 5 ranks: iron, copper, silver, gold, and platinum. Improving your rating is essential if you want to get better more demanding missions and better rewards. You're starting to get the feel of how this game's going to play out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your ultimate goal is to make enough profits to buy the whole moon and to become the supreme leader. Good luck, Captain. Therein lies the premise of this game. So you've got to trade your way around, avoiding the pirates. Basically, this is like Elite, but also with Mercenary kind of combined. This is a combination between Mercenary and Elite, really. It's the best way I could describe it. I mean, it's exactly what it is. This is a vector-based game. And right from the get-go, I'll say this. I don't go for these kind of games. I'm going to say that right now.
That's an unknown about you, Graham. I don't think anybody knows that.
Now, I just want to talk about the flying the ship bit, because it says in the instructions, the X-Terminus class freighter is very easy to fly because it is a skimmer craft. It maintains a horizontally oriented position in all circumstances and changes altitude vertically. It has 2 separate engines, a normal engine running on chemical fuel and a booster engine using nuclear fuel. Booster produces a highly radioactive energy jet, for which reason it is automatically deactivated if a city area or other ships are within the safety margin. If the chemical fuel runs out, you are in a desperate situation, because it is not possible to approach a city area. Therefore, the nearest city sends a refuel ship to help you. If possible, use the booster engine to make the distance shorter. The refueling fee of 100 lunariums, isn't lunarium the currency in Rocket Ranger, is deducted when you access a communication link and can afford to pay it. So this game is fundamentally controlled with the joystick and keyboard, of course, and there's a whole bunch of keyboard commands. Well, let me tell you that there is a big problem with playing this on a emulator on a Mac.
What's that?
And that is that these keyboard controls are utterly meaningless on the whole. So you use space to increase speed, and it's the Commodore key to decrease speed, but not on the Mac it isn't. That's the tab key.
Yeah.
And then you've got, so the keys that logically map, basically the letters, so Z, X, C, V, B for the different aspects. And you've got different views in this as well. You've got an N for navigational computer. You can choose between high-res graphics and multicolor. There's a whole lot of options. I inventory, S for status, zoom in and out using the plus and minus. Those basically do map. And the function keys to change the views just about. But it took me ages to figure out how to slow down. Ages. Because once I started the engine up, I couldn't slow down, so I was just flying around a lot. There's a whole bunch of areas as well. So there's obviously the city area. Think of the city area like the mercenary bit. That's the best way you can describe it. You land on a landing pad, which looks like a flashy square, and then you can walk around the mercenary-style landscapes, including triangular doors, pubs, and things like that. You can get to the pub in this game, which is quite interesting. It did make me laugh. Yeah. But you can get to the pub, and then you can walk around and interact with objects. And so there's computer-linked things everywhere. There's things you can do. Then you can also buy and sell equipment, and there's equipment options as well. So you can get your inventory, and that's then the elite trading part. So you can load up your cargo to then go and trade with other things. Then you can get information options about the city and each of the cities. Then you can save your game status. Obviously, they call it cloning in this game, but you can save it. Then obviously you've got the different kind of equipment and weapons you've got. You can, plasma guns and different kinds of recharge and upgrades and missiles. That's another part where it's more elite than mercenary. Mm-hmm. And then you've got your navigation computer, which is more a little bit of its own thing, a little bit, but leaning into elite a little bit. And then obviously you've got there's a whole bunch of status indications and data modes and trading with Terminus class freighters. There's a whole bunch of other stuff, which I'm not going to go into, because it's essentially the idea of this game is to trade your way around and navigate around the various parts of this space and parts of the planet and the cities, taking on the adventure that comes with Moonfall. Now, I'm going to say this from the start. Now, I genuinely, like I said, I don't like these kind of games at all. They're not my thing and never have been. But this is exceptionally well put together. There is no question about that. This is easily, I think, by miles, the fastest vectors I've ever seen on a C64. They are like lightning in this game. And I know there's not a lot going on, but there's also not just one or two colours. There's a little bit of variation in this. There's a little bit of skyline, and there's a bit of a sense, and there's a nice UI to it. The UI feels a bit like Elite. So on the left-hand side of the UI at the bottom of the screen, you've got your coordinates and your altitude. You've got obviously the indication of speed. And then later on to the right, in the sense, you've got your console, which is your radar, which shows your position of objects, obviously. And to the right of that, you've got your weapons. And then you've got I think it's your shields and thrusters on the right-hand side. So you've got the basic display of an Elite type approach. At the top of that, you've got like a compass navigation right at the top. So you can sort of see which direction you're going. And the way the ship controls, I think it's one of my favorite ways that these ships have ever controlled. So you can just sort of go down and shoot forwards and just move around fairly easily at fairly decent speed with this. Mm-hmm. No, I quite like that. This had a feel of No Man's Sky about it. It's had a C64 variation of No Man's Sky. This is more No Man's Sky than Elite in terms of the nature of exploring planets. This feels a bit more like that mercenary angle. So I don't like these games, and I don't enjoy playing them. And so I didn't get a lot out of the experience of playing this. I flew around a bit, went to the pub, I found a few interesting things, managed to clock up some things in my inventory. It took me ages to do this because trying to navigate the keyboard controls was really hard work, and to try and play the game. But it's not a punishing game. You don't just die willy-nilly unless you press the Q key, which you do if you press that. Don't press that, which is an annoying discovery when you're trying to figure out how to slow down. But if Elite had a baby with Mercenary, you'd have Moonfall. And they've obviously, Duca's obviously taken a lot of thought and time to think about what made those games interesting and as some of the more interesting parts, and really pushed that into this. So I think this leans more into Mercenary. And if you liked Mercenary, I imagine this is the game you would have if you could get hold of it, which I suspect at the time, if it didn't get released for years and then eventually did, I think it probably lost its mojo by the time it came out eventually, whenever it did. But it had this game come out at the time it was meant to. I think this would have been a massive hit. It would have been a huge zap. What did they give it for the score? 81%. I think
81.
I think if this had come out at the time when these games were at their peak, this would have been in the 90s. This is exceptionally well put together, and as far as I could tell, was a really good one of those kind of games. Technically, a very proficient game with the vector speeds that you can only dream of in other games. Mercenary a little bit, but Mercenary's only 2 colours, generally. This has got quite a bit more going on. And I suspect lovers of either Elite or Mercenary would probably, like I say, either have this or would be rushing to play it based on what we're saying right now if they've never heard of it, which I think they must have done. It's often listed in one of the most important vector-based games on the C64. It's in pretty much every top 10 I could find of the games that have 3D vector games on the C64. Moonfall's listed in there amongst the Elites and all the others, and gunships and things like that. So to think this is one guy responsible for all of this is quite incredible when you think about it. Now, I remember having this on the Amiga as well, and I didn't like it on the Amiga either, but I remember the Amigas because it was really, really fast, filled in vectors at the time. I was like, wow, genuinely really speedy. And sometimes on the Amiga, you played these games and they were faster, but not crazy fast. This one felt like it was like lightning at the time. So what I played, I didn't enjoy, but that's because I don't enjoy this kind of thing. All I could think of was thinking that, some of our patrons who would genuinely have expressed great interest in these kind of games, especially, David Hearn, who's a big advocate of Mercenary and many of these games, and many of the other patrons as well. I think that this is right up their street. A big adventure game based in a big, what's essentially a big open world with loads of places to explore, loads of things to do, loads of missions to go on, loads of things to find out about this game. There's an entire crazy arc of stuff that you can get into. I was not going to spend the time to be able to do that here because I didn't have the time to do that, and B, it just wasn't going to be something that I wanted to do. But this game impressed me with its agility and speed and its command of the C64's vector logic, and it had built a really intriguing proposition of a game around that. And I thought that was pretty impressive and deserved a lot more credit. And to think that the guy never got paid fully for it it's hard to believe. This isn't like some hokey budget knockoff game that somebody did. This is a really well engineered, thought out, coded game from somebody. And can you imagine if David Braben never got paid for Elite? These things just don't. They don't. Why should it apply to something like this? It's just something really fundamentally wrong about that. So for the people that like these kind of games, this is going to be right up your street. It's visual, it's fast, the vectors are really neat, all the sounds and everything you want from a game like this are all there waiting for you. And I would strongly recommend, if you're into vector-based adventure games like this and trading games and all of those things, put this one on your list if you've not played it, or go back and visit it because I think you'll be impressed. This isn't for me, but it's definitely for those people. Now, as I say, I play these games and I generally get bored of them. Now, I didn't get bored of this. I just didn't want to play it because I didn't feel like I was doing it really any justice. But there's some real code muscle being flexed here. Duca was obviously a very talented individual, and like I said, sadly passed away now. But what saddens me more than any of all of that is that this was stuck in release limbo for so long, and it got ripped off by the in that process. It just doesn't seem right to me that that's the legacy. Duca's left an amazing legacy of games. That should not be a stain on this game. This game should have been given a big release, and all the brouhaha that came with that. That it got caught up in that tragic incident with Houston is unfortunate, but this should have been given a real big launch because it's a great title.
And just even I'm, as a person that just looks from the outside on these games and thinks, I can't suspend my belief that heavily. I think it was a real shame that this didn't get the credit for Duca that it really deserved, because it looks to me like one of the greatest vector games on the C64. Certainly, and if you're in the same league, I mean, I don't like Elite, but if you're in the same league as Elite and Gunship and games of that magnitude, you're in good company, and I think it deserved to be there. It shouldn't be Duca's also-ran game, should it? That's the tragedy of it all.
No.
By the way, just as a footnote, there is an entry on Games That Weren't for Moonfall version 1 where there's a downloadable demo with a different UI completely, and the vectors are even faster on the demo. So I meant to mention it before, so I'll put a link to that in the show notes.
Yeah.
What did you think?
And I'm pretty much in agreement with you. This is a technically very impressive piece of work. Obviously, very inspired by Mercenary, with a trading element, of Elite put into it. For me, it just asked a little too much in the here and now to get into, and these kind of games were just never for me. I did, like you, I've noted the same things. The simplicity of the controls, move it up and down, turn left and right, you're going fast. It was easy. Felt like flying about had a real sense of speed as well. There was actually a sense of pace to moving about, when you're in your ship, which was good. There's a day-night cycle.
Yeah, there is. I forgot about that, which is clever.
Which is really good as well. So that's quite impressive. I'm not sure I've seen many day-night cycles. The only one I can probably think of is
Sunrise, don't you? That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. The only one I can really think of is like maybe Tau Ceti. That had a day-night cycle, I think.
Yeah, it did.
But being able to switch between graphic modes so you can have high res or multicolored, that's impressive. Everything runs at more than a decent pace as well. There's a lot to commend here. And if you wanted something to get into after you'd rinsed Mercenary, then this is the game for you.
Prime territory, absolutely.
It really is. It's such a real shame. But it's been somewhat forgotten about in the conversations around Elite Mercenary.
I mean, it's a tragedy.
It's good that it pops up in the top 10s, but this seems like the synthesis of those and ups the tech ante. But obviously that the troubled release of this obviously didn't help, and I can't help but feel that had this come out in '89 with the reviewers and the landscape as it was at that point, I think you would have been talking 90s, maybe even gold medals.
Yeah, absolutely. As it should have been. This game has been denied its proper
there's a lot going on in this. I think even in 91 it deserved, I think, more than 80%.
Yes.
And so there's no doubt that this is an impressive under the hood and probably worth a look. Even just to give it a look for anyone. You're really going to get into it if you like the aforementioned games, though. But I'm very much like you. If you don't like those games, no amount of smart technical stuff is going to make you enjoy flying around a fairly empty-ish world with big, vast vector graphics. You will tire of that quite quickly because you need to like these games. It is it is very much in that ballpark, and you have got to be able to go, this is an adventure I'm going to go along with. Not for me, but certainly, miles ahead of most things we've looked at this month.
Yes. It is. Like I said, it's just, for me, it was all hinged in such tragedy. The fact that Duke had passed away, obviously sometime after that, but he had passed away. I don't know. It just seems a shame that a game of this quality has just not got the shouting out and the fame that it deserved. I think that's.
Yeah.
I know now people are probably looking at it and it has got a little bit more of that, but I can't help but feel that it should have been something that was mentioned in the same realms as many other games that we've had, and it hasn't been.
Yeah. And yes, I like to go into the pub and asking for rumours.
Yeah, it's
very RPG.
Really good ideas in there, and if you like doing that, this is going to be right up your street.
Yeah, it really is. There we go. That's Moonfall, precious moonstones. Let's move along because we've still got one game left this month. And that game, Graham, is Warlock.
Yeah.
What do you say about Warlock? Or to give it its full name, Warlock the Avenger.
Yeah.
Or to give it its more accurate name, Druid downloadable content.
Yeah.
Or Druid reskinned. Take your pick. Whatever.
More Druid.
Yes. Yeah, more Druid. A Druider. A Druid harder. So the Druid's back. The Warlock is back for his third adventure. And for this installment, forget all about those advancements we made in Enlightenment. Just to all go, get back to plain old-fashioned Druid. None of that fancy Enlightenment nonsense. We just plain old-fashioned Druid. Warlock. Whatever. So, from what I can ascertain about this game, Druid was ported to the 16-bit machines, namely the Amiga and ST. Okay. And a second tower of 8 levels were created for that game. This second set of levels were then backported to the C64 by repurposing the original game and changing some of the visuals and the level layouts. That's what it seems like. Okay, so I think that's what's happened here somewhere. I don't know, because the similarity this has to the first game is quite remarkable. Almost to the, I don't know, to the litigation state, or legal sense. So although Dean Carter is down as the design of this, and of course, why would he not be? I don't think he actually had anything to do with this. I think I remember talking with him on X or Twitter as it was back then when Enlightenment came out, and I asked him, and he said he didn't even know this existed, I think if I remember right. I could be wrong.
Wow, shocking.
So the credits for this on Lemon list Millennium as the publisher, John P. Gibbons and Wing Lai as the coders, and David M. Hanlon as the musician. John P. Gibbons is an interesting one. He's done 3 games on the C64. Eddie Kidd Stunt Challenge, way back in 1984. I don't know if you remember that, with the massive Eddie Kidd sprite.
Yeah,
it was quite popular, that one. And he did the 4th Protocol.
Random. Okay.
And then he did this.
Okay.
So that's what he did. There's a story, of course, a long one. I'll read a bit of it. Moments from death. The old man's heart faltered and seized as he struggled to focus on the beloved land which he had fought for and lost. His life played before him across the dark and turbulent skies, triumph crushed by bitter defeat. His eyes filled with tears, his mind racked with despair and confusion. In an instant, his body jolted in pain, and his spirit was relinquished in a strange confusion of agony and ecstasy. For that split second, Saren thought he was young again and lurched upwards to try and gain his feet. Immediately, he came crashing to the ground, crushing that last precious breath from his lungs. The insects set about their slow but enthusiastic task, picking the flesh from Saren's bones. Saren's spirit stood and watched. And upon yet unseeing eye glistened, attracting a raven which clumsily drifted to earth like a wind-battered kite. God, who wrote this? The grotesque scavenger sidled up to the corpse with scraggy wings outstretched and sank his beak into the socket like a stiletto knife. Saren's spirit watched. Time passed. An old man, a warlock, shuffled silently along the path and stood behind Saren's spirit. Seeing the spectacle, he furrowed his brow and sighed. Like flies to wanton boys are we to the gods. They kill us for their sport. Saren's spirit turned to the warlock. I had so much left to do. I never studied. The wizard studied the spirit's face. I know you, Saren. You have more than could be expected from a mortal being. Probably done more. The old man and the spirit sat and said nothing. The warlock watched as 2 ants wrestled a piece of flesh through the hairs on Saren's arm. Time passed. At nightfall, the warlock broke the silence. I am old and tired, yet I am stronger now than I have ever been. Saren's spirit was too forlorn to humour the self-indulgent riddles of an old man. He blurted out in despair and anger, For half my life I have fought with all my strength and wit to free Belorn from evil. Now it is as if I have never existed. All I provided is a feast for the scavengers. The warlock calmed the spirit with a hush. Tell me all. Now there's loads, and I can't be bothered. Because none of this really matters. It's just, it goes on like that for pages afterwards. So it just, basically it tells the story of the first couple of Druids, Druid and Enlightenment, and fighting, the what's his called? Akamentor has come back.
Yeah, something like that.
And he's come back and he's going to, he's crushing rebellions and he's taken the world down again.
Trouble.
Yeah, it's just, Akamentor being a dick. Anyway, when the game loads up, you're going to get a sense of deja vu for sure, right? It's going to be like, I recognise this, because we get the same little animatic of that evil sort of yin-yang face with a glint in its eye, like we did in Druid.
Right.
Ding.
Okay.
And then that same lovely music greets our ears. Yeah, we heard that 5 years ago in Druid. Brilliant, great little bit of tune. The layout of the title screen is very similar, same standing stones, but this time Druid has been replaced with a Spectrum-esque Warlock the Avenger logo, which is not very pleasant. If you wait, we get the same high score table. Then we get the screen with all the enemies walking on. Different enemies this time, but they've just changed the sprites and the text for what they are. They all come walking on the exact same way. And then we get the the image of the druid, I mean the warlock, that sort of bit, that great drawing of holding up his scrying mirror with the laughing demon's head in it that we got in there. But instead of the word druid at the top, it's been changed to warlock. It's exactly the same. This is the intro to druid.
So cheesy.
Just with some stuff just changed to warlock. It's pretty shameless. I mean, at least I think so. I don't know. Pressing fire starts the game, and we're back in Druid land because any changes that came along to the layout with Enlightenment are also now gone. So where that game added in loads of spells, reworked the UI, and it felt like an evolution of the original idea, which is what we chatted about when we spoke about Enlightenment. This is basically DLC with redesigned levels of the first game. This is, an example of that. So for those who cannot remember, Warlock is a top-down gauntlet variant. You control your little Warlock in the normal 8 directions. Monsters spawn in, and you must shoot them to get through the levels. What Druid did, though, was build on Gauntlet, giving you 3 different types of elemental weaponry in water, fire, and electricity that all did different levels of damage to the various monsters. And you could swap between these with the F3 key. As you wandered about, you'd find chests. These would offer more ammo for any of your spells, or bespoke spells such as Golem, Invisibility, and Chaos. They may also offer keys to open doors that allow you to progress. The UI at the top of the screen shows your Warlock's energy as a depleting bar, and also your Golem's energy. I'll speak about Golem in a moment. Below this is your rating, which increases as you progress, then your ammo for your 3 weapons, then the number of keys you've got, the number of Invisibility, Golem, and Chaos spells you have. You can fire off an invisibility spell with a minus key whenever you want, if you've got them, and you can use the pound key, or it's actually Shift 3 on a PC, to create a Golem. So your Golem can either be controlled by a second player with a joystick, making this a great 2-player game, or with the Commodore key to switch it between 3 states of follow, wait, and send in a direction. The invisibility spell makes you invisible for a short period of time, and the Chaos spell kills all on screen, and you need to save those to be used for the final boss. So, and all that's kind of, it's Gauntlet. This game, Warlock, adds nothing new. So all that's just Druid. This adds nothing new aside from new monsters and levels. I mean, which is fine, I guess, but it's selling for £11. It's £11, and making out like it's the evolution of Druid, which it's not. That was Enlightenment. We'd had the evolution of Druid. It's already happened. You've just gone back and re-level or level designed the map. It's a huge step back from Enlightenment and basically a downport of half the 16-bit game. So you're not even getting the new stuff that you got in the Amiga and ST versions. This feels to me like a quick rip-off. You can tell this because in the instructions, right, instead of invisibility, they talk about the paralyzed monsters spell. But that's the invisibility spell, and they've not even bothered to change the text for that spell when you open up chests in the game. There's no mention of the invisibility spell in the instructions. So, either that's in the Amiga version, they just haven't bothered to change it for the C64 version, whatever. So if you there's not much to say about it. If you like Druid, there's more of it here. But the problem with this game is that it's got worse level design than the original game and a more punishing difficulty level. The first level is just this big maze with these annoying sort of walls that kind of force you around bits, and you can find, power points where you put, you get your energy back and stuff like that. But the monsters here seem to spawn faster. They're spawning quicker. The way the maze-like notion of the level doesn't feel quite as organic as that first, Druid game where you started off, above ground with the trees and the fences and everything. It just felt a bit more sort of inviting. This just feels awful, horrible, punishing, like you would do if you were playing like advanced DLC and you'd leveled up. But here, you're the same Druid. You've got the same problems. I was dead faster in this than ever was in Druid. I said, put this out on a budget game, called it Druid Plus or something, and they should have included the original Druid game like they did in the 16-bit machines. This should have been $2.99. We've got these levels already made. The engine's already there. All we're doing is taking that code and redesigning the levels. We've not changed anything else. There you go. Then I would have been all right with this. I'd have been, that's fine, £3, don't mind. That'd be great value. But they've not. They've charged £11 for, some different levels, more than the original Druid. Doesn't play as well. It's not as well designed. Doesn't feel as good. It's not good. As much as I like Druid, that had a time and place. That was 1986. It was nice in that period. It fitted in well there. This just feels like a massive rip-off. And because I like Druid so much, it angered me playing this. I was like, oh God, what a shameless, what is this? It's not been improved in any way. They've not taken Enlightenment and gone, right, how did that build on the premise? So we build on that again. No, they've just gone back to the original and re-level designed it and just released it for 11 quid. Shocking. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it, but I don't know anything like it. Shocking. What did you think?
3 words. Just more Druid.
Yeah.
It's just more Druid. It's just Druid in a weird reskin. But Druid was always a playable great game when it was Druid. This is just, I don't get what they've done. It's like someone's sort of hacked out some of the characters and bits and re-released Druid with a different layout. Yeah. I think that's a bit of a cheap shot, and I don't understand it. I don't understand how you can do that. Is that something you can do? You can just take someone else's game, change the graphics vaguely, and because I've decided I'm going to get Uridium. I'm just going to change the title of it and call it, whatever I want, Frisbee, and just change it to that. But that is all this is. So they've taken a great game and changed its title and added some. Well, they haven't added anything to it. It's just I don't get it. I don't get how this was allowed to be released. I don't understand. I'm sure there's some kind of infringement somewhere. I don't get it. Certainly, if this has nothing to do with the guy that made Druid as well, it just shows you there's something really stupid going on. So I like Druid, and I liked Druid because it was designed really well and it really worked. This isn't designed very well. This felt like a really dull version of Druid. I found myself wandering around the first level, just opening there was no real thought process behind it. It's like it looked and played like Druid, but it wasn't Druid. And it wasn't as good as Enlightenment because that advanced thing. So it was just taking a step back. And you can't just take a step back and change its name to Warlock. Nope. So I wasn't very impressed with it, I have to say. I like Druid a lot. I remember buying the original Druid and being quite excited by it because it was a bit like a gauntlet type game, and I quite liked those at the time. And it was a great purchase, Druid. It was a great purchase to have.
Yep.
This is just an insult to Druid and to Enlightenment. And the fact that it even starts the same with this sort of big character thing. It's just, and even the music, it's like, I'm like, just get lost. I don't know what your thoughts are about when you do this, but I could have got this game at the time and hacked out the characters using an action replay and turned it into this. Wouldn't take me any skill to do that, would it? And all the programming and everything else was done and the graphics done by somebody else. So I think this is, for me, this is some kind of con ripoff, and I don't think it's a very good thing at all. I don't think it deserves 69%. It should have got, I don't know, nothing. And just the review should have simply said, why has this been allowed to be released? This is just somebody's reskinned Druid. So there you go. That's my thoughts on it. I think it's a reskin of a much better game done oddly and badly and shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have been allowed to happen. So nope, not for me. Thank you.
Not for me either. And there you go. A weird one to end on, but that's been May all the way through. It's been an odd month with 5-year-old NES games appearing, games not getting released and finally getting released, rip-off DLC, Popeye popping up again for some unknown reason. It's been a strange month, but there you go. So this week we looked at Skull and Crossbones, which Gremlins 2, which Moonfall, which is very impressive. But not for us. And Warlock, which is 11 quid for more. No. So that's that. That's this month. What a month. There were some budget releases, some budget re-releases. Would you like to know what they were?
Yeah, go on. Let's have a listen to the budget releases.
For these, the prices are seeming to go up as well. We're in $3.99 territory now for budget releases. So Roadrunner was re-released for 4 quid. Would you have liked to play Roadrunner for 4 quid?
Roadrunner was all right for 4 quid.
Okay one.
It was all right.
Hunter's Moon for 4 quid.
Yeah, that's a bargain.
Super Scramble Simulator.
Okay, it was all right.
Driller for 3 quid.
I hated it, but for 3 quid, it's probably good to listen to the music. It's worth it, the music.
Yeah, 3. Yeah, Rambo 3 for 3 quid.
That had problems, didn't it, that game? But
it did, yeah. Hawkeye for 4 quid.
That's not bad for 4 quid. Good music as well. Amazing music.
Yeah. Techno Cop for 3 quid.
No, I don't remember it being that good. But 3 quid maybe, but I don't think so.
And £1.50 a game here. For 3 quid, you can get the trapdoor and through the trapdoor.
That's pretty good for those games.
It's not bad, is it? It's not bad. We have a crapvert.
Oh dear, we do. Oh dear me.
What?
Is that a baboon? Is that a white baboon?
Well, so this is the advert for Shadow Dancer. We didn't like the game. We like the crap. We like the advert even worse. So this is from that. This is like those Line of Fire eSWAT adverts.
It is.
So it's that same kind of layout. Sega arcade hits. It says "Unleash the wrath of Ninja Fury." And then he's doing a sort of a ninja wobble in the background. He's wobbling his sword. A guy in a blue vest who's swinging who looks happy to be swinging a nunchuck around. His dog is leaping. While in the foreground, the main one, he's quite proudly showing off his sword with his white pajamas on, and as you rightly say, a white baboon.
It's just stood with a white furry. It's a baboon. That's not a dog. So there's a few questions I've got. Firstly, the guy who's wielding the nunchucks looks like he's just stepped off a council estate in Scunthorpe. That's true to form. That looks pretty accurate.
He looks drunk. He's like,
he does. He looks a little bit like a band member from a rock band. I don't know which band, but he does look like that. I'm just questioning. I mean, as much as I enjoy things that are on brand, does a white suited ninja need a white sword? Just saying, doesn't have to have that stick. Just be silver.
Is he wearing a cravat as well?
He is. He has got a cravat under his ninja suit, and he's also well masked up, isn't he? So he's obviously suffering from a bit of the old COVID, isn't he, back then? And also, his headband's the same colour as his skin. He's an orange ninja in white. It's very conspicuous. I'm just not getting the colorization. Shadow Dancer logo's a complete afterthought on this as well, and really bad. It's really bad that it's in that direction, and it's really bad that it's got a really horrible white outline on it. So I don't forgive you. In fact, it's got not only has it got a black outline, and then it's got a white further outline. That tells you that there's something's gone badly wrong. But I don't know. It's just I can't get my head around the fact that he's wielding a white sword at a guy who's clearly a drunk guy from the pub in Scunny who's also probably defending himself because he's about to be attacked by a baboon dog, which is an unusual breed of dog at best. Now, admittedly, it looks more like a dog there than it does on the picture at the bottom right, which is more. It's just because his nose is too far down. It's like if an owl was suddenly had a dog's mouth. It's an owl dog.
Yeah,
so
I also
odd.
noticed as well that the dog's paw in the top bit as well seems to be too long. Seems to be down too long. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not anatomically accurate, is it? Really? No. And also, I mean, I'll tell you one thing about it, right? This is a very well pleated and shaded set of creases on clothes. This is probably the best crease. This is the best crease shading we've seen in some time on a white outfit. That is some good. I mean, those folds and those creases. I mean, he could have ironed it, couldn't he? But it does give the impression of a well crinkled outfit. I don't know that he needs to. I think he should have rethought the headwear completely. I don't think having the stuff sticking out the sides like dog ears is a good look for him.
I think he's not done his black belt up tight enough as well, because in the bit at the top it looks like he's holding it to keep his pants up.
I think he is. And I don't know. It's obviously a black belt, I think. But wouldn't you have a black belt around your head as well? You wouldn't have an orange belt. I mean, I don't get it. But he also, his expression is he's smiling. That's not a fear. We've seen Fierce Ninja with Last Ninja. We know what Fierce Ninja's eyebrows look like. And they're not that. He ain't got eyebrows for a start, but if he had eyebrows, they would be quite fierce, I would imagine. But there it looks like someone's just cracked a joke and he's having a laugh behind his mask.
It looks to me like someone's shining a really bright light in his face because of the highlighting of this sort of on the band, and he's like he's squinting a bit going,
Well, I think the last thing you need to be doing is shining a bright light at a ninja dressed in white, because that's going to go see-through and you're going to see things.
Well, he might not need to go see-through if his pants are falling down.
You're going to see his orange spuds and you're not going to like what you see.
You're going to see his shadow dancers.
You really are. Now, I'm guessing, I don't know exactly what breed of dog that's meant to be, or is it a wolf of some kind? Or
I don't know.
Looks like it looks like somebody tried to draw a husky but couldn't. And then they've tried to draw a wolf but couldn't. So you end up with this. The dog's eyes are too close together. Its nose is too long. Its actual nose is too far from its face, and its teeth and mouth are too small for the breed of dog. So I'm afraid that isn't going to harm you, no matter what you might think. That isn't going to harm you.
Also, as well, the text. It says, fight your way to victory with Sega's ambitious martial arts game. Battle against merciless street fighters as you seek revenge for the killing of your loyal student Kato whilst trying to foil the evil Saros.
Yeah, that was one of the stories, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that's where I got it from. It's like, why is that there? But the way that's just sort of stuck in between his legs above the wolf's head.
It's afterthought, like everything here. I mean, who puts a credit on something that says marketed by US Gold?
Yeah.
I mean, what? What do you mean?
We marketed this. Well, you did it badly.
Yeah, but why that? Why not produced by or why market? It just seems odd that the only credit they would give themselves is that, look, we're responsible for the marketing. We do nothing else for this. There's nothing to do with us.
Just put US Gold on it. Why do you have the marketed by?
I love that they've put the Sega logo quite prominent on there because they thought, look, people aren't going to, if they see US Gold on this, they're going to know it's a great big giant turd. Stick the Sega logo at the top. That's got currency at the moment. People will probably appreciate that.
Yeah.
And what can we have the dogfighting? I don't know. Just draw a drunk from Scunthorpe and stick him on there in a vest.
Just get your mate in.
Notably, that none of those enemies who look like that are actually feature in the game, I believe. I don't remember any nunchuck-wielding drunks, but maybe there are. Maybe I didn't get far enough into the game. I don't know.
I don't either. It is a generally ace crap, but that is.
It is a ninja sword, though. Give him that.
It is a ninja sword, but I want to know, is that the dog's tail? Because I do like the way they've managed to fit the dot in the exclamation mark between the ninja's head and the wolf's tail.
Yeah. The vibrating ninja. You notice we've got more vibrating people.
Oh, I know.
Well.
Yeah, everyone's vibrating in this. That sword is proper vapor trails. His head is
exactly.
Like,
why white sword? Why did they give him a white sword? Yeah, well, why? Yeah, but at least the nunchucks look like nunchucks. I mean, it looks like he's holding a giant stick of rock or a.
Yeah.
What is that? It's like one of them cheap lightsabers you get from the fun fair, isn't it? Illuminating when it lights up, but it's not really that powerful.
The thing with Shadow Dancer as well is that what do you do mostly in Shadow Dancer? You throw shurikens.
Yeah, we're not allowed to show those, are they? Goodness me. I mean, they've got nunchucks on there and I'm surprised they got away with that.
I don't know at this point. You could have had some shurikens on there, but that's what you do. Yeah. Anyway, it's a crapper. It's a good crapper, that one. I was glad to find it.
It is.
Been many recently.
Classic, yeah.
There we go. We've got the charts. We always have the charts, as ever. Let's count down from 10 to 1. At number 10, down from 7 is the Dizzy Collection. Quattro Adventure from Codemasters is in at number 9. R-Type down from 1 to 8. Paperboy down from number 5 to number 7. Rambo 3 in at number 6. Cave Mania from Atlantis in at number 5. Never heard of it. Real Ghostbusters in at number 4. Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles holding strong at number 3. Super Scramble Simulator is in at number 2. And jumping 10 places from 11 to 1 is Outrun. It's weird.
Okay, weird chat.
Countdown from 11. Operation Wolf at 11. Kenny Dalglish Soccer at 12. Daley Thompson's Challenge at 13. Target Renegade at 14. Hong Kong Phooey at 15. Afterburner at 16, Skating USA down at 17, Yogi's Great Escape at 18, Judge Dredd in at number 19, and Predator rounding us off at number 20.
Weird chart that is.
It's a very odd chart, but it's budget all the way now, isn't it? I mean, that's what it is. Budget. Quite a few games for next month. Next month is a 3-episode special. So we've got some high-scoring games next month. I'm just going to go through them. These are listed in order of score, not how we'll be looking at them. So June contains these games. It's Atomino,
okay,
which is another chemical joining puzzle type game. Gauntlet 3, The Final Fight.
Okay.
North and South.
Oh, I remember getting a crack at North and South. That was the game to get at one point. That.
It was on the Amiga. It was. I didn't know it even got a C64 conversion.
No, Amiga.
Spiky in Transylvania.
Okay.
That is Supremacy.
Spiky's. That's not that Hedgehog. Returning that bloody Hedgehog game. Spiky Harold, I hope.
We'll find out next. We'll find out in the next few weeks. Supremacy.
No, I remember the music being good on that.
Yeah, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
No, okay.
I Play 3D Soccer.
Oh, I bet I don't.
Predator 2. We've had the film. Now we get the game. Cricket Captain.
Exciting.
Oh, dear. That's another one of those cult games. Cult-alikes. But this time it's full price.
God help us.
Moon Shadow. We had Moonfall this week, and then we've got Moon Shadow coming up. Passing Shot.
Okay. Basketball game?
Tennis,
or
I
hockey?
think.
Oh.
I thought it would be hockey, but it's actually tennis. Viz, the game. Lupo Alberto, the video game.
God, No, it sounds crap.
That's got Bob Winner and Lee Enfield written all over it, hasn't
It
it?
absolutely has, yep. Well, it's like, remember that other weird German one we had some time ago? What was the
Wiener or Weiner or what was it?
Viner, yeah, that was it, yeah.
Yes, it feels like something like that. And finally, Great Gurianos.
Oh, gosh.
That's an old one, but it never got reviewed in Zap until it hit the budget label, and then it has.
Right, yeah,
so
and it was crap.
Yeah, probably 24%. It's probably not going to be great. And there you go. That's it. That's May. That's what's coming up in June. What a month. Not been a particularly great month, has it?
No, it hasn't. Aside from some interesting, it's a month that has interesting things, and not always for good reasons. The Moonfall tragedy is kind of tinged May for me, and it's just sort of rounded off what was a pretty disappointing load of stuff. Games with no purpose, games that just the Gremlin 2s, where it's a game that features Gremlins maybe, bad arcade conversions, terrible coaching games, just utterly reprehensible blocks of text on screens, and just tragedy after tragedy after tragedy. There's nothing that you could honestly say has really been mind-blowing, is there? Skull and Crossbones, I suppose, was okay, but a bit slow and a bit just an okay conversion of a really boring game anyway.
Yeah, you can only work with the source material.
No, I think out of all the games I've played, the one that is impressive and should have done a lot much better than it ever had a chance to do was Moonfall. Everything else, well, I don't want many more. I didn't like Shadow Dancer. Why people like it, I don't know. We're looking at the crap there, and it's a wonder it even got anybody buying it. But
yeah, Mighty Bomb Jack was a bit misguided. Some good elements and a good conversion, but
yeah, another good conversion of something that just didn't quite fit. Weirdly.
No, it didn't. So there we go. That's it. That's it for May. We will. There's nothing more to really say, I think.
No.
Apart from we'll sort of make our excuses and leave. So next week we'll be back. Start of June 91. And we'll have 4 games, I think, next week. 4 games. We'll be going through them. So as ever, I have been Adrian Mills.
And I have been Graham. That is a hairy baboon, Raddings.
And you have been listening to Zapped to the Past, which rates at about a 4 on the Nick Nolte sweat scale. And we will see you again next week. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings, and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.